And thanks, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, from wherever you're joining us from across the country. We're thrilled that we're hosting this summit for all of you, and we're thrilled to see all of your faces, and we can't wait to some hopefully post-COVID time where we can actually be in person. And we'll look forward to doing that at some point in the near future. We so understand what a challenging time this is to be a community walk leader. Some of you have missed 2 years in a row of your in-person celebrations. Leslie, could you mute yourself?
I thought I was, sorry.
That's okay, thank you. Some of you have missed 2 years in a row of your in-person celebrations, and we know this is a very tough time to galvanize support for pancreatic cancer research funding. The purpose of today's convening is to connect with each other, connect with the Lustgarten staff, and to help you reinvigorate your program, to invigorate your work with your team captains, your volunteers, and your partners. We aim to bring you some tactics for engaging new team members and for expanding your reach within your community. You are such an essential community of inspiring leaders, our tireless partners, and we're so grateful to you for taking the time to join us today. We hope that our conversations today will help you feel empowered, reinvigorated, and that you come away with some tactics and strategies that you can bring to your communities, bring to your teams, your volunteers, and your supporters. And it's so important that we hear from you, that you're able to speak to each other and share what is working and ask each other for help where you could benefit from one another's walk leaders' experience. This really is a family meeting, and I want you all to think of this as a family meeting where we're putting all of our cards on the table. We're having real in-depth and real conversations about how we can do our work and how the Lustgarten team can help you more. And we'll have plenty of time to share during our upcoming roundtable and in workshops. And I'll go over in a few minutes some of the housekeeping, how we'll be able to unmute and chat and all of that. But first, I wanted to introduce the first part of our day's speakers, and I'll read them in order, and then I'll go ahead and do our housekeeping. So our first speakers are Dennis Bavaria, who's our Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania walk leader, and then Dr. Andrew Reakman, who's the VP of the Lustgarten Foundation Research. He's going to talk about all the amazing breakthroughs resulting from the hard work of you all raising funds for pancreatic cancer research. Dr. Tuvison will be joining us via video, and he'll take us on a really cool tour of the Cold Spring Harbor lab. Lola Clay, a PhD, psychologist and author and organizational development expert. She'll be sharing some of her expertise with us. We have Steven Kowalski with us, who's a PhD, and he's a leadership and creativity coach. And I am so sure that you're going to learn so much from our speakers. And then in the second half of our program, the Lustgarten staff will present strategies for fortifying your walk organizations and reinvigorating your walk donors and participants. Now, in terms of our housekeeping, so again reiterate to be sure that you mute yourselves from now on. We'll ask you to unmute yourselves a little later when we get into our round robin. And then during that section, Jason will go around our Zoom room alphabetically by city, and we'll ask each of you to introduce yourselves and to share some highlights of your event. And so meanwhile, if you have questions during the different segments, there are 2 ways that you can flag us without interrupting the speakers. You can use the chat function, which is at the bottom of your screen, to send us a message. You can raise your hand. If you go over the bottom of your screen, you should see a raise hand function, and then we will get to you. And then see what my instructions here. So there's a pop-up menu of participants should open on the right hand of your Zoom, and that's where you click raise your hand. And I don't think we have anyone joining us by phone, but if you're joining us by phone, you can press 9 to raise your hand. And again, if you have any questions throughout these sessions, just feel free. The best way to get us is to use the chat function. So without further ado, I'm so pleased to welcome Dennis Bavaria from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, who's the walk leader there, and he's going to share some words of welcome. Hi, Dennis. Dennis, you're on mute. Stephanie, can you unmute Dennis? There we go. Great. Hey, Dennis.
Okay. Thank you for this time, Linda, and thank you for all the walk leaders for the great work and efforts they have done over the years. It's quite an honor to work with the Lustgarten Foundation. It's been 7 years that I have had to walk. It's going on 8 years that my wife passed away from pancreatic cancer, and I got involved. In the 7 years, we've had walks, we have had basketball shootouts, and we've raised over $200,000. But without the Lustgarten Foundation and all the support they have given us, we would never be able to accomplish what we've had. Some of the ideas that I've had, besides foul shooting contests, we are raising money at local places that cut hair. They're having a weekend, 3 days, where they go in and half the percentage of the money they bring in gives to the Lustgarten Foundation. I also have our local, I work with our local high school team since I'm a basketball coach. So our football team and our basketball teams walk with us, and we average around 350 walkers that walk in to raise money. We're a small community. We're not like a big city. So I think we do very well. And last year in the virtual walk, we did 33,000 for Little Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. But like I said, the Lustgarten Foundation has been so good to us, and I appreciate all the efforts, and they've never denied me for anything. And the publicity is just fantastic. Those are some of the ideas that we have here. And, but walk leaders, as you know, it's never easy to raise money, to ask for money, but you have to get the word out in the local community, and it really pays off. And if you ask people, they're more than willing to give. And pancreatic cancer, the third leading cause of cancer deaths now in the world, it speaks for itself. As soon as they hear that, people want to give. So I am blessed with the people in our area that want to give money to us, and it helps, and we're making great strides with the Lustgarten Foundation.
Great, thank you, Dennis, so much. I think Dennis is joining us between basketball games, so we'll let Dennis get back to his basketball, but I'm sure he'll join us for as long as he can. So thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Now I'm pleased to welcome Lustgarten's Vice President of Research, Dr. Andy Reakman. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Linda, and hello to everyone. And thank you so much for having me on. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to be able to meet with this group, who's not only so inspiring from your stories and really, underscoring why the work that we're doing is so important, but literally driving the fuel for the fire that keeps us moving and keeps all the research going. So I take it as a complete honor that I get to come here today and share with you. And I have, really just a couple of minutes to present, but kind of three goals of what I want to share. And the first is to express my gratitude to all of you for sharing your stories, sharing your efforts, and raising money to help us do the work that we do. And that's gratitude that comes not only from me, but the whole research team and the pancreatic cancer research community that supports. I think every dollar that comes from Lustgarten comes with all of the special hopes and thoughts that you all attach to it, and that's really felt by the researchers. But also on top of that, and more importantly, I really hope to inspire everyone here with a sense of pride about the work that's happening because you're making it happen, and really hope that everyone here feels a sense of ownership in all the progress that's happening, and along with that, a sense of excitement about what's ongoing and what's to come. And hopefully everyone here leaves with at least one tidbit that you can go back and share with, your family, your community, your friends, your coworkers, whoever it is, and get them as excited as you are for what's to come in the progress. So I think what brings us all together here, and what we all recognize, is that research really is fundamental, that we don't know enough about pancreatic cancer to treat it as effectively as we need to. And without research, we're not going to get there. So research is really at the core of what we do. But, you know, I also like to think, and as a scientist, take this for what it's worth, research alone isn't enough. Just learning things isn't enough. And what helps to turn research into progress is having the kind of focus and prioritization along the research that we do, that it's really targeting the areas of greatest need moving forward. So I'm going to give you just some highlights of where we're seeing progress, but in the context of how we think about the research needs and how we focus our research program moving forward. So I think there's a slide that summarizes at the highest level how we think about the research program, if we could put that up. And that's really thinking about research that we do along 3 pillars. And there are pillars that are defined by what are the greatest needs for patients out there. And that's earlier detection of pancreatic cancer. I'm sure we can, if we went around, we'd hear lots of stories about people that were diagnosed too late and it was hard to do too much to intervene. So the sooner we can identify folks, we know the more treatment options we have, the more lives we can save. Development of new therapies. We also know that the options out there for treatment are not good enough and not enough, and we need more and better and more targeted treatments for pancreatic cancer. And then personalized medicine, and this really gets to learning enough about the disease and how it's different in different individuals and how we can then tailor treatments to the particular patient and to the needs of their disease and their cancer themselves. That makes the treatment safer and more effective. So these, areas of focus, like I said, are really driven by where the need is, but then we have to prioritize another level down by what are the gaps, what are the things that we don't understand and other people aren't coming in to fund, that we can help to drive the research forward and turn it into progress. And I think you'll hear in a few minutes a story from the Cold Spring Harbor Lab and our chief scientist, Dave Tuvison, about how some early investments from the Lustgarten Foundation into tools for personalized medicine are now paying off. But we really see that kind of progress across the board and across all of the areas that we support. And one of the things I would say really drew me to the Lustgarten Foundation and I'm most proud of in our research portfolio is across all those areas, progress is happening. And now technologies that only a few years ago were just in the lab and being explored as, is this possible, are turning into things that are being now tested on patients. In earlier detection, early investments that the Lustgarten Foundation made with our partners at Johns Hopkins in terms of identifying markers that you could see in the blood that may indicate somebody at high risk for pancreatic cancer. They've now been turned into a test that we call CancerSeek. That was picked up by a company called Thrive Earlier Detection. That's shown some positive results in clinical studies, and it's continuing to move forward for being able to detect cancers earlier. Let's see, my internet connection. I hope everyone can hear me. I think my computer might be having a little glitch. Driving forward and having impact not only in pancreatic cancer, but in multiple cancers, as that test is going to be helpful not only for finding pancreatic cancer, but for other cancers as well. And similar progress happening on refining the ways we can look at images to see tumors earlier and people that might have a CT scan for a reason unrelated to pancreatic cancer, but we might be able to diagnose them earlier. That's the Felix project. Around development of new therapies, this is an area where a lot pandemic, we've launched 2 new big programs in this area. One focused on, in the lab, understanding the biology around how inflammation impacts disease. Why does pancreatic cancer metastasize so quickly and so early? What's the role of the stroma, or this protective dome that forms around the tumor? And really trying to identify some key targets that
Andy, your computer is a little bit glitchy. Steph, I don't know if you want to roll the video
Sure.
from the lab.
Yeah, and Andy, if you can by chance hear us, maybe you can disconnect and reconnect.
Thanks, Steph.
I'm sorry, did I drop off?
Stephanie, we're not hearing the sound on the video.
Yeah. And I'm back. I think I have my computer kicked me off for a second.
Yeah, Andy, you had kicked off. So while Stephanie, is the sound going to work, or if you want to continue speaking while Stephanie figures out the sound?
Yeah. So and I'll set up. So I don't know where I dropped off, but I think I was talking about the Clinical Accelerator Initiative and how that's led us to a number of new clinical trials that are now getting underway based on fundamental research understandings that we took about how the immune system interacts with pancreatic cancer. And then I think in the video that you'll see, which is a very nice production, highlights the efforts that we've been supporting for a long time with Cold Spring Harbor, developing pancreatic cancer organoids. So these are little bits of the tumor that we can take from a patient and then grow in the lab, and will respond in many of the same ways that the tumor would respond in the patient, and how that can be useful for deciding which therapies might be effective or understanding the individual aspects of a patient's own tumor. And I think through this video, which you'll see and hear quite clearly from Dr. Tuvison, who's been leading this work, is how this really required an early investment at a high-risk stage of the project, and this kind of sustained investment that's really only possible from a patient-driven organization like Lustgarten, and that's now led into this test that's now moved into a clinical trial where it's going to be tested across a very large number of patients to really show us, is this going to bring the kind of utility that we really think and know is possible with this approach. So with that, Steph, if you can have the video ready to go, or if it needs another minute, of course, I'll have lots more. I can always continue to talk.
So what we're doing is taking a little piece of the cancer and growing it in a dish. We grow it in a structure called an organoid, which means organ-like. It's a little ball of cells. It grows very quickly. And then with these little balls of cells, we test therapies. We are trying to identify the penicillin for that patient's pancreatic cancer. So we've done the research on this that's been supported by the Lustgarten Foundation here at Cold Spring Harbor over the past 7 years. And we have found several startling things. We think we are able now to identify what's the best chemotherapy to give a patient with pancreatic cancer and what's the wrong chemotherapy. And this is important because patients are just treated and then we hope for the best. It would be better if we treated the patient based on what their tumor tells us is the right treatment. And with the support of the Lustgarten Foundation, here at Cold Spring Harbor, we've been able to build the organoid system into a method which is very robust and very rapid. We get the tissue from the hospital, we grow the sample. Within a week, we can see if we're successful, and within several days, we can test that sample with drugs. This trial will prove or disprove that our first experiments were correct. And if it's correct, we hope this is how all patients are treated, so that they're treated as an individual using medical information that the doctors have, using scientific information that we'll get from the organoids, put it together to come up with the right combination strategy for a patient with pancreatic cancer. And by doing so, I think we're going to help all kinds of people. So patient goes to the doctor, they have a lump, we don't know what's wrong, we get a biopsy, the pathologist tells us if it's cancer, the scientists tell us this is what the organoid shows. It's a cancer from the pancreas and it responds to this medicine but not that medicine. Very similar again to how people are treated for infections today. We want to know what it is, but mostly we want to know how to treat it. This personalized method using organoids should lead to many more responses, many more lives extended, if not lives saved. The Lustgarten Foundation, we've gone from a small organization of over 20 years ago to one that has had the biggest impact of any organization against this disease, because we have funded the fundamental science that has led us to new medical treatments for this illness. That's why supporting the research for pancreas cancer is probably the best way that anybody can have an impact on this terrible disease.
So as I mentioned before, so this approach of it's really getting at the core, what we've seen in a number of other types of cancers, like breast cancer, as we hear, the more tailored the therapies can be to the patient's own tumor, the more effective they are and the safer they are, and the less we need to overtreat patients. So really finding ways to personalize therapies is key, and really treat a patient's own tumor and not the average tumor that occurs in pancreatic cancer. So Dr. Tubison's vision was really going back to the start and saying, if we want to ask that question, what we should look at is the patient's own tumor, and recognizing there had been some work coming out of Europe by a researcher named Hans Klevers that was showing that if you took enough samples from a biopsy of a patient's tumor and you treated them the right way in the lab and grew them in a dish, that you could turn them into something called organoids, which just means little organs or little tumor organs. And you could do a lot with them. You can learn a lot about the biology of the tumor, you can understand, but now you could also generate, not one mouse model that represents one patient, but you could generate hundreds of thousands of one of these for each patient out there if you could do enough. And the implications of this became really dramatic. And so one, we can learn things about biology, we can ask questions in human cells in real time in the lab, but even perhaps more impactful, you could take these tumors and organoids and test them against a whole battery of drugs, like hundreds or thousands of drugs at one time, without having to expose the patient to anything, and see which will be the best drugs for that patient's own tumor, and let the tumor tell you what's important and not the doctor or the scientist. So that's been shown that you can grow these organoids. They work technically. We can run the screens with drugs, but what's not known yet is, can you actually make better decisions clinically using these than you can? So that's really now the focus of a large international clinical study called the PASS-1 trial. It's being funded by Lustgarten Foundation, Stand Up to Cancer, and Pancreatic Cancer Canada. It's being led out of a lab in Canada. Jennifer Knox is the main PI there, as well as out of Hopkins in the US, and a number of other sites in the US. And that's going to enroll 150 patients, split them between the two different standard of care chemotherapies, and at the same time make organoids from them, and be able to compare directly, how did the patients respond to treatment versus how did the organoids, and do the organoids give us some clues about how to treat folks better. There'll be a number of other different types of tests run on those patients and different samples taken, but it's going to be this huge step forward in terms of enormous data collection, and really teach us about the utility of these organoids. And all work that was made possible by this very early investment in the basic science of, can you take a piece of somebody's tumor and turn it into something useful in the lab, that's now moving forward into clinical testing like this. And it's that kind of progress that, Lustgarten is really unique and able to drive in this field. And like I said before, it's because we come from starting from that same sense of urgency that we need to move forward as fast as possible. Now, I know Linda promised I was going to give you all of the updates and all of the progress. I think if we were going to stay here all day, I would be able to do that, but I know there's lots more to get to. So all I can really give you is kind of the highlights and a few of these examples out there on how early investments in research, which is fundamental, turn into progress, which is really paramount for changing the lives of patients. And that's happening across the board. And I really encourage all of you to, stay connected with all the different materials that are coming out of the research department, and including the Lustgarten Live series, where we've been having webinars where our researchers themselves get to tell what they're working on and what's exciting and what's coming. Those have been really fantastic, and appreciate you all taking the time to listen to what I have to say, but more than that, really appreciate all the work that you're doing that enables all the fantastic work that's happening.
Thanks, Andy. As you can all so clearly see, Andy is so invested in our research and so invested in all of you to take the time to come and talk to all of you today. And what is so unique about Andy is he really understands the biology of pancreas cancer and really has a vision for how we are going to continue to push the research forward. So thank you, Andy, for taking some of your time to share your thoughts and all of your wonderful work with our walk leaders. So thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thank you.
So next up, I am really pleased to introduce you to our amazing National Director of Development, Stephanie Dergarabedian. Stephanie's been with Lustgarten for a couple of years, or 2-3 years now, and Stephanie is an amazing representative of our organization. She loves all of the walk leaders, and it was Stephanie who is going to introduce Lola, because it was Stephanie who first spoke to Lola and said, you guys have to meet Lola. So Stephanie, take it away.
Thanks, Linda. So hello to all of our wonderful walk leaders. I've met some of you. I can't wait to meet and learn more about all of you, and want to welcome you first to today's summit. It is my privilege to welcome Lola Clay Phd to share her connection to the mission, and who has a few words of inspiration on community and the power of resilience and perseverance. Lola Clay is a certified union therapist, trauma specialist, who is knowledgeable on sexual health behaviors, transcendental meditation, domestic violence, and is also a relationship expert and life coach. Lola developed a love of health and wellness early in life, and as an undergrad at the University of Texas Southern University, Lola was a personal trainer and owned a mobile fitness company called Fit for You, Fit for Life, dedicated to bring fitness initiatives to gym deserts. And those are areas that are without access to fitness facilities. As Linda mentioned, I first met Lola in November 2019 when she reached out to Lustgarten Foundation because she unfortunately lost her mother to pancreatic cancer. She selflessly immediately asked us how she could be of help and has come forward as a committed and dynamic ambassador for Lustgarten Foundation. One example is our Mother's Day campaign where Lola participated, and this campaign honored our mothers, grandmothers, aunts, sisters, all those women who have lost their battle with pancreatic cancer. And it really was our best Mother's Day campaign yet. So thank you, Lola. And Lola will also share some of the other ways she's been engaged with Lustgarten Foundation in her own remarks. Lola's philosophy is every person deserves the best care. I am going to give it to them in any circumstance, judgment-free. Lola joins us from Houston today. So join me in saying, welcome, Lola.
Hi, guys. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Stephanie. So, hi, I began my work in Lustgarten in 2019, like Stephanie said, after my mother passed away from pancreatic cancer. And so with that, being my mother's daughter is my most important role in life, and it's the role that I'm most proud of to date. So many of you who've been through similar things can imagine my fear when years ago I learned of the terminal diagnosis of stage 4 pancreatic cancer for my mom, because that's the stage she was in when we got her diagnosis. Selfishly, it left me wondering, what does that mean for me? And I know I'm not alone in that either, because a lot of people are left wondering that when this happens, because the news, it's devastating. It's the sort of thing that can leave you reeling into the depths of sadness. But since I am my mom's daughter, I did not allow myself to do so. I decided to take action. And because I love people and I consider myself a fighter, I used my love for my mom, my determination, and my resilience, and I transformed it into action. So I immediately reached out, contacted Lustgarten, and I met Stephanie. And the reason I selected Lustgarten was because I was truly impressed by all of the work that they do and the fact that 100% of funding goes towards pancreatic cancer research. And as you guys know, that's pretty rare. So they are sort of in a standalone class with that. And so I really desperately wanted to become affiliated with Lustgarten. And I truly do believe that as a community, we can all work together and change what this diagnosis means. We can raise the funds that will eventually find a cure. And even though at the time of my mom's diagnosis, I resigned myself to the fact that death was inevitable for her, no one said that it couldn't be a wonderful, gracious, fun-filled, and triumphant journey. And I believe that spirituality and the ability to become centered and focused and meditate not only helps the patient, but it helps the caregivers and family members of the patient if you can move yourself into that sort of psychological space. And so that's what I did. I allowed myself to become involved with Lustgarten, and we did a broadcast on the purpose in finding grief. That's when I really knew that this was a new family for me. The broadcast allowed me to share my experience, and I felt an immediate connection to the other participants because they all understood. They understood exactly what myself and my family had gone through, and they got it. They understood the path of anticipatory grief that you go through when you first get the news. And then they also understood what it means to share in participatory grief, where your loved one actually helps you, because that was my experience. My mother helped us grieve through that 18-month journey that she went through. And it was a beautiful thing. It left me with a lot of comfort, but it also put a fire in me to do more. And I accompanied my mom to all of her appointments. And when she was faced with deciding treatment options, she went from being really, enthusiastic and optimistic about what treatment could look like. And when she was in that mode, I was right there with her. When she was in the mode where she no longer wanted treatment, I was with her then too. I remained hopeful till the end, but even still, I knew, like we all know. But what I'm hoping and believing for is that one day we will all believe and know that that diagnosis doesn't have to be a death sentence. And with optimism, anticipation, and hope, and in the spirit of moving forward, knowing what it means to love and be loved has allowed me to participate with the Lustgarten Foundation, and I'm passionate about it. I planned it was going to be amazing, a Havana Nights Gala in 2020. And we were hoping that it would happen, and people from Lustgarten were going to come down and travel here, and we would have researchers at the event, all of that. But unfortunately, due to COVID, the event had to be canceled. And so I still remained optimistic and participated in the virtual walk. So I had a great time forming a team for the virtual walk in my local area. People participated. It was absolutely amazing. And then this year, just last month, in honor of my mom's birthday, we had an art sale. And so lots of people turned out. We had great sponsors. We featured a local artist, Ty Woods, and it was wonderful. It's really exciting to see how people will show up. And so that leads me to my next thing that I want to share with you guys about building community. It's so important, and I almost want to like laugh at myself because I'm speaking so passionately, even though I'm a newbie, but I'm learning a lot. I'm on the learning fast track for fundraising. So building community, the number one component that I've noticed so far is use your voice. Like the old saying goes, each one teach one. Well, talk about what you've been through. That is continually healing for me, to be able to talk about what I've been through with the experience of my mom getting her diagnosis. And I share with people what I personally know from symptoms that I witnessed and saw. I also share medical facts that I learned from Lustgarten, because Lustgarten really puts out a lot of and they keep you up to date on what's going on. And so in a span of a year, pancreatic cancer can move from stage 1 to stage 4. And so I share this sort of stuff with people just in regular conversation. Also use your voice to talk about what your funding needs are regarding research. This cancer doesn't get the attention that it deserves. And I think it's because it's so devastating and it's such an ugly process. The deterioration that happens leaves a person so devastated that I can easily see how someone might not want to talk about it. But I'm surprised that when I start speaking about my experience, I learned from people that almost everyone has either had a loved one or knows of someone who's had a family member diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Component number 2 of building community: construct your team and your members from your network. It can be overwhelming to think about taking on the responsibility of raising funds for an organization and for research, especially if it's something you've never done before. So for me, what I found helpful was to really bloom where you're planted. It can be overwhelming, and so look within your peer network and construct a team from a dependable resource pool. Individuals, companies, businesses that you frequent, link to them. Tell them about what your mission is and link to them and access their resources in inner circle, and then spread out. So you go from blooming where you're planted to actually sowing seeds and spreading out more. Thirdly, I would suggest for most people, if at all possible, get on your mayor's calendar and attend city council meetings. The local legislators are really important. And now that we're planning to have a live walk next year in this area I live in, so I'm in the greater Houston area, but I reside in a town called Missouri City. And so here we are able to actually get on the mayor's calendar by just going online and selecting an available date to meet with the mayor. And so that's what I'm doing, because I want to bring a live local walk to the area. And so I would suggest to people, if possible, get on your mayor's calendar, see what you need to do to make things happen, attend those council meetings, connect with your community. Use your voice everywhere you go. The more people that you talk to and tell about pancreatic cancer research and how important it is, the better the outcome. Now, the fourth component of building a sense of community and resilience would be recognizing your power to pivot. Working with Lustgarten Foundation has really taught me the importance of being flexible and also of having a plan B. You have to be able to be flexible and change, especially in today's current environment. I think COVID has taught all of us the importance of being flexible. I know for myself, even with the whole working from home, I learned how to do that, as most of you probably did too. But being flexible and having a plan B is important because it helps you to recognize that change is not failure, it's just change. And when we had to go from having the big event last year to not having it, and then to having a smaller, more intimate event this year, it really taught me that, okay, just be flexible and go with the flow of things and everything will work out. So having that power to pivot and make new plans and utilize your members and your board and your resources, that's really important. Change is nothing to fear. It's a part of life, and it sets a great example for those around us and for our team members. And the fifth component of building a source of community, I would say, is memorializing your loved one in a positive light. It doesn't have to be a sad story. You know, share with people memories and thoughts of your loved one that give them a sense of who that person was to you and also of what they meant to the world. And so if we can do that, I would say we are going to continue to grow and be more and more successful every year. And I'm so proud to be a part of this organization.
Thank you, Lola. And I'm so proud to have you with the Lustgarten Foundation and for you to use your beautiful voice and amazing story to inspire all of us, and more importantly, to inspire your community to reach even greater heights. And I loved your each one teach one. And it takes a village. And what you're trying to tell us today, that in order for us to be successful, use your village, use your voice. And I'm so proud of you and proud to know you, and look forward to you being a very integral part of our Lustgarten community moving forward. So thank you, Lola.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. So next up, I'm pleased to introduce a few more members of the Lustgarten team. As you've already seen, and as so many of you know, so many of the Lustgarten team members, such a committed group of professional people who are committed to your success, committed to transforming pancreatic cancer into a curable disease, and committed to being as available and helpful to all of you as possible. So first, I'd like to introduce Carrie Kaplan, the president of the Lustgarten Foundation. I'm sure many of you know Kerry. She's a terrific, that's Lisa. That's okay, Lisa, you can stay on, Lisa.
I don't know how Carrie Kaplan's name, I don't know what happened, I'm sorry. But anyway, hello, everybody.
Okay. So here's Lisa, and that is not Jason. So Stephanie, if you could, I think Jason might have given his link to somebody.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, so we need the other Jason.
Carrie's hopping on. She was just getting off a call, running a little bit early, so she'll be on in 2 minutes. So if Lisa wants to get started, that'll be great.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, I want to say hi to all the walk leaders out there, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have this summit and to learn more about what we can do to grow our walks and to make them even better than what they already are. And I also want to thank everybody, you know, for all your hard work and dedication to the foundation. That's really very important. And you guys some have been with us a very long time. I'd like to welcome Cheryl. Cheryl, you there from Syracuse? She's our newest member of our team. Thank you for joining us. And remember, everyone, I'm always here to help. Give me a call, send me an email. I'm always here for you guys. Thank you, and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
So I'm sure all of you also know Jason Rice, our National Director of Development and Events, and he joined our team pre-pandemic and has not had the fortune of attending too many of our walks, but Jason will share his background with you, and he's another very important member of the Lustgarten team. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Linda. Hey, everybody. So once again, I'm Jason Rice, National Director of Events. And like everybody else, I'm very excited to be here meeting with all of you today. As Linda mentioned, I've been with Lustgarten now for a little over a year and a half. And in that time, I've been able to attend 2 walks. I went to Tampa right before the lockdown started. And then most recently, we held our New York City walk at the end of June, which was our first in-person walk in 15 months. So we're starting to take steps in the right direction, pun included, and excited to have the opportunity to kick things off locally here so we can start testing the waters and see, what these new events as we start moving in this direction are going to look like. But right now, I know Kerry, I just saw her walk past my office, so she'll be jumping on soon, but we'll come back to Kerry at the end. I know she's excited to talk to a lot of you guys too. But a little bit about my background. Before coming to Lustgarten, I have over 20 years of experience in peer-to-peer fundraising, including walks for nonprofits like the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and most recently, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. So I'm looking forward to taking what I've learned and the experiences from all of the team members here at Lustgarten and applying those to how we can get these walks back on track. Clearly, this is all of our first pandemic, so we don't know what this is going to look like as we start coming out of it. So this is why we want to take this time to sort of join together and start talking about what are some of the fundamental things that we need to work on to get these in-person events back on track. So what I'm going to do now, though, is we want to start meeting all of you. For many of you, I've recognized some faces and names, but we really want to take this chance for each of you to also have an opportunity to speak to one another. So I'm going to try to do this in an orderly fashion. We're going to go alphabetical by walk. So I'll ask each of you, when I call on you, to spend a minute or two introducing yourself, telling us where you live and why you either started your walk or took over a walk. And then if there's anything else you would like to share about your event. And then after that, we'll have Carrie Kaplan hop on and join us, and she'll talk a little bit about her role here now. And then we'll start getting into our breakout sessions right after that. So first up, and let me remind you too, all of you are on mute. So when I call you, if you can unmute yourself first before you start speaking. And then when you're finished, if you can remute yourself, that would be great. Thank you. So first up, we have Albany, New York, the Pipers, Sherry and Neil. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
It's great to see you both together. I'd like to hear from both of you, though, even though you're on the same Zoom room. So Sherry, why don't you get started?
Okay. We started the Albany area walk 18 years ago. So this is our Chai to Life walk. And hopefully, so that we cover the Albany County, Schenectady County, Rensselaer County, Saratoga County area. But the walk itself is in Albany, in our town. Neil?
The reason that we started this walk is because I lost actually a total of 4 family members to pancreatic cancer, 3 nuclear, that is my mother, brother, and sister, and then on my father's side, my uncle, all within a spread out period of time, but it got us thinking very highly about why pancreatic cancer hit us. And then we learned when my brother was dying that he had looked up Lustgarten Foundation. So we looked up Lustgarten Foundation as well, and we decided, after 3 family members, we got to do something about this. So
we're not good at burying our heads.
No. So we contacted Lustgarten Foundation and found out that community walks are a good thing. And we started a community walk. We did that 18 years ago. Our last in-person walk was 2 years ago. We had 600 walkers. We raised over $156,000.
Right.
And we are continuing, and we'll continue until we're too old to remember.
I think that one of the biggest lessons is your walk is going to start small, and not to give up. And walkers attract walkers. a small increase gets you some publicity, gets maybe TV cameras there. And as was previously said, everybody at this point knows somebody who's been touched with pancreatic cancer. So the spider webs go out, and if you stick with it, it will grow. But it, of course, takes work. It's not a field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. You got to get them there. So that's to us is big. And also the fact that as much as as walk leaders, we did this because of the personal loss. We found that everybody coming has a personal loss. And if we make it just about our loved ones, we're not going to attract as many people. So we try to make sure that everyone who's there gets a chance to honor their loved one and feel that they're part of it.
We make it a celebratory walk. When we first started, we were mourning those we lost. After 3 years and getting a committee, we changed that, and now we celebrate the lives of those we've lost. Also, our motto is, you're not going to get a yes unless you're willing to take some no's.
That's great. Great. And I'm glad you mentioned committee, because we're going to be talking a lot about that. So thank you, guys. So up next, we have Atlanta. Steph, Waco, you there?
I'm here. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you guys. I was just thinking about the last time we did this, July of 2017. That's when I met Tara and Sherry and Lori. These are just faces and names that I recognize. It was my first time. I think it might have been the first time we did this leadership summit. And we went around the room and did this, and it was so emotional. And that was like a huge takeaway for me. And I remember, because the Atlanta Walk had not had its first walk yet. And my mom had been diagnosed a few months prior, and she was still with us. And I'm listening to these stories and how I was overwhelmed with emotion. And then the next day we went and we toured Cold Spring Harbor and the lab. And it was like amazing. It was one of the most amazing and inspiring experiences that I have had on, I will call my journey of fundraising for pancreatic cancer. I think that day changed how I looked at and learned about Lustgarten and the research we're doing and how it makes an impact. And I remember calling my mom from the parking lot at that hotel going, "Mom, you're not going to believe these organoids." So it's just like very, very inspiring. I started with Lustgarten in New York City in 2011 for the very first walk in New York City. And I remember my grandmother had just passed away from pancreatic cancer that January. And I was on the subway and grabbing the free AM New York, and on the back page was the shoe. And it said, "Join us to walk, April 2011, pure whatever." So I called my dad and I was like, "Dad, you should come up for this." So me and my dad and two friends went to the first walk in New York City. And each year I grew that team, larger and larger, then involved my law firm in New York City, moved to Atlanta, and my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And after I guess before she passed away, I'd already committed to bringing the walk to Atlanta. And our first year, we had, someone will keep me honest on the numbers, somewhere between 250 and 300 walkers. And we have not had an in-person walk in the last 2 years because of COVID. And hopefully we will be back on the books for next March. And the last question here is a highlight of the celebration. And I think for me, the walk itself is pretty special and the community is pretty special. Something pretty cool happened in Atlanta, which I think it was new to Lustgarten at the time, is after our first walk, we caught the attention of the Northside Hospital Liver and Pancreas Institute here in Atlanta. Northside Hospital is one of our larger hospital systems in Atlanta, and they became our partner for the walks each year. And each year, I call him Dr. A. He is a pancreas surgeon, and he will bring survivors and his patients to come speak at the walk. And, they usually give uplifting stories. And one of our survivors that has spoken the last 2 years, he is actually a principal at an elementary school. And he is so passionate about his journey and surviving pancreatic cancer because he was one of the special ones that had the surgery, and it turned out so well. But when you're in that environment, and to instill hope in the families that are walking with, their mom or dad who has pancreas cancer, those who have just lost someone to pancreas cancer, and those of us who lost someone, a short time ago or a long time ago, it's just having that sense of community is huge. And Tara and I are follow each other on Facebook, and we are constantly high-fiving and watching. I don't want to jump on Tara's territory, but she is inspiring. And when I met her at the first walk, we hit it off on our commonalities of losing our moms, and work to inspire each other. So it's not just your community; it goes across state lines, and developing relationships to really build each other to continue our mission.
And that's, again, you guys are doing a great job at teeing up some of the things that we're going to be talking about a little bit later, including, reiterating what Lola said about the importance of community, but also about that sponsorships as well too. So thank you so much, Steph. Up next from Boca Raton, representing from Florida, is Neil Ronin. Neil. You gotta unmute first, Neil.
Hi, great to be here.
Morning.
I
Afternoon, I
started
should
with
say.
Lustgarten I started with Lustgarten in 2005. My sister, who raised me, was 14 years older than me when I was born. She was like my mom to me. Passed away. I spoke to her in April of 2005, and by August, she had passed. And my heart and soul then went into this organization as a volunteer in Jones Beach, giving out T-shirts. And then I moved to South Florida in 2017. And the crew in Woodbury, Lisa, Ashley, Jason, Kerry, who were all great. I can't commend them so much. They've been a tremendous help to me through all these years. They said, "Do you have anything in South Florida?" No. They said, "Okay." So we started the Boca Walk at Florida Atlantic University at the end of February and early March. And we raised the past couple of years over $300,000-400,000. We started with 100 walkers the first year, 200 walkers the second year. The third year, I said, because I've been a runner all my life, let's get runners involved. We had 200 runners, 100 runners, 200 walkers, total of over 300 people. And it was a huge, huge success. I have a lot of sponsors. I brought out some celebrities for people to meet. Mike Saunders, who worked for me many years ago, was the trainer for the New York Knicks for 27 years. Jeff Houston, who played ball for me in a Brooklyn high school, was an NBA player for the Knicks, the Nets, and the Cavaliers. So people came to meet them. They signed autographs, signed basketballs. It's fantastic. We had a DJ. We had silent auctions, we had raffles, and we had just a stupendous amount of volunteers from my development, which is Coral Lakes in Boynton Beach, Florida. And I can't say enough about it. My partner at that time when we first started was Eric Borden, who has been a survivor for almost 5 years from pancreatic cancer. And it's constantly growing. And agreeing with Lola about getting out there. The voice is always heard. I'm not exactly shy. Every store I go into, I'm asking for donations. And they know that 100%, that's a big key. 100% goes back to research. They don't want to hear about administrative costs and paperwork and things like that. They want to know the 100% goes back. Great. You're like no other organization I've ever heard of. And we're constantly growing. I have about 17, 18 close volunteers, family, friends that work with me. And afterwards we celebrate with a big lunch at my community. I take them all out. They all get t-shirts. We're called Myra's Marchers. This is the t-shirt for my sister. That's my sister. Myra's Marchers. Everyone, I give everyone on my team a t-shirt, and they walk, they run, they come, they give out bagels, they give out water. You don't have to run, I tell them. You don't have to walk, but you got to donate. You must donate.
And that's what it really comes back down to, doesn't it, Neil? So, and you know, Neil represents a group of emerging fundraisers that are also, you know, getting into the 5K runs as well too, which is great. And we have a couple others that we're going to hear from that are similar as well too. So thank you very much, Neil.
You're welcome.
Next, I don't know if Marlene is here. Marlene, are you on right now from Cedar Rapids? Okay. So let's, maybe Marlene will join us a little bit later. Up next from Cromwell, Connecticut, the 18-hole stroll, Pat O'Connor. Pat, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a little bit of feedback, but now I can hear you.
Great. So happy that. How about now?
Yeah, it looks like you might be on twice because I see you up at the top and at the bottom. You have two. There you are.
How about now? There?
Up, you there, Pat?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. I had it on my phone and now then I had you on the computer. Anyways, Pat O'Connor, the 18-hole stroll. We actually started about 13 years ago. It actually started all because of my daughter. She was 5 when I lost my husband, pancreatic cancer. Sorry. And at age 12, she said, "Mom, we need to do something about pancreatic cancer." And so I listened to her and we found the walk actually in Boston, pancreatic cancer. And she went and looked into it. We ended up going up to Boston, doing the walk. She raised about $1,000 that year. And so she took her money to the walk. And after that, I don't know why the video is not starting. Sorry about that.
It's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay. So anyways, she goes up to Boston and then she was like, "Mom, why do we have to go all the way to Boston? We live in Connecticut. Should we be doing something in Connecticut?" So we looked into it and sure enough, there was no walk in Connecticut. And she said, "Well, then I need to start it." So at age 12, she started, and her first year, she raised $20,000, just like locally. And then a year later, she teamed up with a PGA Tour event. And we do this walk now every year at the Travelers Championship Tournament. And it's Sunday of the tournament, which is the final day. And we get a major tent within the community, and the walk takes place right at the tournament, early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. And this year we raised $37,000 without an event. That was
Just phenomenal. That's your second year in a row you've done that.
That was strictly emails. There was nothing other than, I mean, we called it a virtual day. That was it. And so far to date, she's raised just about $670,000. She is now age 25. Unfortunately, she can't be here today because she's at work. But it's all because of her dad. Her dad died at 44. She was 5 at the time and a baby on the way. We were adopting a baby, and he passed in 3 weeks. So she clearly knew something had to change. And I hope someday she gets down to Lustgarten and gets to see the research that's going on, because she very much will love to see that. But, you know, you guys are great partners, and, you know, it's nice having a big event, a PGA event. You have a lot of restrictions that come with it, but overall, she's had some great success. And you're absolutely right. Whenever she gets out and speaks, that's when things happen. I can go out and speak, doesn't happen. When she goes out and speaks, it all happens. So I look forward. I hope next year, Jason, you come and take a look.
I can't wait. I can't wait to start getting out to some of these events. I mean, it's such a unique partnership that you've built as well too with your event, and really, you know, taking it to a level where even when we weren't able to do anything in person, you still raised a tremendous amount of money. So thanks to you guys. That's terrific. So up next, we have 2 walk leaders from the Denver, Colorado area. We'll start with Leslie. Leslie, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, yep.
Excellent. Well, my name's Leslie, and I am in the Denver area, and I've been fundraising since 2015, but I've been a walk leader. I think it was 2017 when I shadowed the person, and then took over in 2018 for my first walk. So I'm fairly new, but I've done a few, and we've had anywhere from like 400. I think we've had up to 600-700 before, but it's mostly, I think, been around 400 that I've been a walk leader. And you know, it's always impactful. I think for me, I got involved within the year after my father passed away. And for me, it was just one of those things that he fought for about 2 years, and a friend of mine, made a donation to the Lustgarten Foundation in honor of my dad. And that's how I kind of got involved. So I think that's a neat way maybe to get people, is if you make donations in honor of them, obviously. But, and so it's been one of the things for me that's been really moving is being at the walk and seeing you know, parents walking with their children that are survivors. And it's just so moving because of all the efforts and research done by the foundation. So although my dad can't be there with me, it's still really great to see and help know that we're helping to keep families together for longer. And the walk itself in Denver, I'm actually, I believe, the 3rd walk leader. It got started 14 years ago. So it's been around for a while, and there were 2 other families that, you know, got involved, and they still, one of them is still there each year walking. They just were like, we wanted to pass the torch to someone else to kind of do the legwork to organize the walk. So it's great to have that community. So there's been a lot of volunteers that are kind of not so much a committee leader, but they like to do certain things for our walk. So I've been kind of navigating the ropes of learning how they operate. But I also, with a couple years ago, Suzanne Kennedy, she is an amazing woman and so helpful with everything, and such a wealth of information and inspiration. So I think I want to, if we can give her a couple minutes too, to say hi, because she's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for introducing Suzanne. Suzanne, you want to hop on?
Sure. And I think we've got a mutual admiration society here. I think Leslie's fabulous. I lost my husband to pancreatic cancer in 2007. And several years later, 3 years later, I was living in Fort Myers, Florida, and I decided to start a walk based on the Denver walk because I have children in the area and they had walked at the Denver walk. So I started the walk in Fort Myers and did it until 2018 when I moved to Colorado because of my children. And when I moved here, I discovered that there is someone right down the street, practically from my house, that does the walk. So I contacted Leslie, and we've done one walk together. Last year we didn't get to do a walk, but Anyway, Leslie's fabulous. And the best vision I have of her is the walk that we did get to do. She had how old was Julie? Maybe
7 months now or so, yeah.
And here's Leslie walking around the area, pushing tables together, hanging things, doing things with a baby in a pack on her front. And it was just the cutest thing ever. She's got more energy and knowledge already, even though she's fairly new to the walk. She's wonderful, and I am delighted to be able to help her a little bit. I want to do as much as I can to make it successful, because I think the Lustgarten team and the Lustgarten walks have been so instrumental. I see a huge difference in treatment from 2007 to now. I talked to people when my husband was in treatment about individual treatment according to his tumor, and people told me, oh, that's just bunk. That's nothing. That's never going to happen. And now it's happening. So I'm very grateful to Lustgarten and all the work that they're doing. And we're just happy to be able to support all the things that you do. And your new team is great, by the way. We like your new team.
I'm sorry, was that last part?
I said, your new team is great.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah,
There are a lot of new people on there.
Yeah, well, we're very grateful for both of you, and it's great to see such a dynamic duo out in Denver, and we're looking forward to getting that event up and running in person again as well. And I think, Leslie also had an interesting point too about, how some of these walks, are getting passed on from walk leader to walk leader, and having that sort of plan in place with your committee to be able to have a support system there if there comes a time and place when you're not able to lead anymore. So, again, that'll be a part of our discussion a little bit later as well too, about the importance of those committees. So thank you both, appreciate it. Up next, out of Elliott City in Howard County, Maryland, we've got, again, 2 walk leaders with us today. First up is Michelle. Michelle, are you there? Michelle might not be with us. I know Laura is here. I saw Laura is on. Laura, do you want to hop on? Just Laura, you have to unmute yourself first.
I was trying to let Michelle know because she's been texting me, so hopefully she heard you. I know she wanted to get on. So I wanted to say thank you. It's really nice to meet everyone. I've met many of you and heard your voices. I have actually attended several walks in the Maryland, Washington area, and then at the Johns Hopkins when they had the Pancreas lab open with Lustgarten, I met these 2 wonderful women, Kim and Michelle, who have been working on the Howard County for years. I actually lost my grandmother, my sister, my uncle, my father recently, and my mom is a survivor. She had her pancreas removed in 2007 on my sister's birthday. So I am, and my step-grandfather, who I'm related to. So I feel everybody's pain, definitely. I can't tell you how important this is and how much I appreciate hearing everybody. My mom right now, her name is Nancy Platt. She is actually one of the Lustgarten spokespeople. So if you happen to have gotten a coloring book that you received or something recently, Nancy's my mom. She's been such a trooper. And I just think that Lustgarten has saving lives. And I know my family appreciates it. So I look forward to actually getting out there and walking again, and thanking all of y'all, and hopefully Michelle can also join us as well.
Great. Yeah. Well, when Michelle hops on, we'll introduce her as well too. Thank you so much, Laura, and great frame, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I teach Zoom training as a living. And,
well, we might be contacting you separately about some additional training on our end. So up next, we actually have 3 walk leaders from the Los Angeles area for our Westlake Village. First up, let's have Jessica Reese join us. Jessica, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here with all of you. And it's so inspiring hearing all of your stories. And it just reminds us, you know, we're all texting on the side. It reminds us all why we do this. It's incredible. But yeah, I'm Jessica, and my partners in crime here are Lori Shackle, my aunt, and my sister, Kristen Bardwell. And we started this race, gosh, this past pandemic year would have been our 13th year. And as Jason said, we're in the Los Angeles area, specifically Westlake Village. We started this run walk to honor my mom, Pam Bardwell, who passed away from pancreatic cancer at the age of 54. And she was an avid runner, you know, picture of perfect health. And so the diagnosis, you know, took us all by surprise. And when she passed away, you know, we had that feeling of being so helpless and wanting to do something. And so to honor her, we thought, you know, what better way than to have a run? She liked to, you know, participate in 5Ks and 10Ks and races. And so the initial intent actually was for us to put on a 5K, 10K run, a race. And we did it the first year. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, and we're overwhelmed with the amount of support that we got from the community and family and friends. And after that first year, we were like, okay, we're in this, we're going to do this, we're going to commit to it. And that's when we, you know, did our research and found Lustgarten Foundation. And so we've been partnering with them for the past, you know, 12, 13 years. And they're so incredible because we loved, as someone mentioned, I think it was Neil mentioned, 100% goes to research. And that was what really, you know, solidified it for us for Lustgarten Foundation. And that was so important to us and such a huge, you know, selling point, just knowing that everything we're raising, everything we're asking of people is going to go directly to the much needed research. And so we've just had such a great experience, you know, and growing the race. I would say we're averaging about 1,000 participants, probably, you know, 800, 900 participants, then plus volunteers. At our race, we like to encourage, you know, people to bring their families out. We try and make it a big community event. So we bring in local sponsors and vendors to bring food and beverages, and we have live music and a kids corner for kids to do crafts and whatnot. And so we try and make it a really fun community event for everyone. And I would say that's just sort of one of the things that we feel is special about it is just making it a really hopeful, positive event for the whole family to come out and enjoy. And yeah, so I don't know, Lori, Kristen, do you guys want to add anything else?
I will, but I also want Kristen to jump on. I know she's got some family stuff, but we've raised over $1 million in our 10th year, and we did that. You know, we were really happy with the success that we had on our own. And Jessica and Kristen, as the co-founders of the event, have really done so much to make this like an amazing community event, getting local sponsors involved and everything. But when we reached out to Lustgarten, we really did see a huge difference in the way that in the community that got involved in it, because we're lucky we have a huge family, and our huge family was there to support us that first year on our own at 3 a.m, setting up, doing a run/walk that we had never done before. Luckily, we all three kind of do a little bit of that in our own professional lives. So we were able to do it successfully. But with Lustgarten's support and involvement, one of the most special things that we see year after year are these returning teams, who we've gotten to know so well. And we've seen them, you know, sometimes bringing their, you know, whoever the survivor is at the time, and then they come back and they're not there next year. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also inspiring and hopeful, especially when we see the progress that is being made through Lustgarten's research, and to know that the money that we're raising is directly supporting that. So I'm super excited to continue working with all of the Lustgarten team. And we've got challenges in Los Angeles, as everybody does in their own local markets, but interested to hear, grateful to hear all of your experiences to see if we can incorporate some of those things in our challenges moving forward. But Kristen, what else I'm going to toss it over to Kristen.
Hey everyone, I just want to echo the sentiment. Was just said, we've been pinging back and forth. I find all of your guys' stories and why you guys are doing this reinvigorating and a great reminder of why we all started this. So I think this is so special. To be honest, I think Lori and Jess really articulated well kind of the background of our race, what we're doing, why we're doing it. And it's been really interesting to hear, I think all of you, there's pieces and it's the same inspiration. It's like we're all doing this to make a difference, to raise money and to stop and beat this disease while trying to bring hope. So I think we all have that in common, and I'm just very grateful to get to hear all of your guys' stories today.
Thank you guys so much. I think, you know, what's really unique about the 5Ks is that I know they will sometimes tend to bring in a different crowd. You get people who are joining, who are there for the race, but hopefully we're staying on for then the mission afterwards. And you think about all the years you've been doing this, how many people that you've generated some new awareness for this disease for. It's just tremendous. So thank you all.
And interestingly,
Jason,
I mean, I was gonna.
Can I ask a quick question, Jason?
Yeah, oh, sure. Quick question, Neil. Yep.
Can I ask those ladies a question? To Jessica, Chris, and Lori. I have cousins, dear cousins in Agora Hills. I think that's next Westlake.
Right next door, yeah.
Right next door.
When is your date? When are you having your run, your next one?
So our date is generally, I don't think we've chosen 2022 yet, but it's generally towards the end of February.
End of February.
And we would love to be connected to you know, the folks that you know out here. As Laura mentioned, some challenges just in terms of getting community support and whatnot, you know, volunteers and whatnot. So yeah, we would love to be connected to whoever you know out here.
I may go out there myself and visit my cousins and run in your race.
We'd love to have you, Neil.
Jessica, I'm going to get my cousin involved. He works for the state senator. What's his name, the state senator there? Stern, right? Senator Stern? Your local senator. And he's an environmentalist, my cousin. Wolf, he's a great kid. Jeremy Wolf, he works for the environment. And I'm going to tell him about this. We have to contact each other.
Sounds good.
That's great. Thank you,
He hasn't
Neil.
responded yet.
You got it.
We'll definitely
Oh,
connect.
wait, hold on. He did. Hold
on. Okay, so moving on here because we still have a lot to cover, and I want to make sure everybody has a few minutes to introduce themselves too. So I want to go next to Monmouth, New Jersey. Nicole, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, Michelle.
Hi, I'm
I
here.
don't know if he's going to do it or not, but
Can
I'm
you-
watching to see if he does.
Yeah.
Can everybody? I'm not sure who's talking right now. We have a little over talk. If we didn't get to anybody during that jumped on later, we'll definitely add you to the end here before we're finished up. So go ahead, Nicole.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so hi, my name is Nicole. I started the walk in Monmouth County, New Jersey. We originally called it actually the Howell Walk because it was in a town called Howell, which is the town I lived in. We had it at a reservoir in 2010. It was called the Manasquan Reservoir. It's like, it was 5 miles, so it was a little bit long. But our first walk, we had about 400 walkers. We ran out of t-shirts. We had no parking, you know, good problems to have, obviously. We raised $52,000 in 2010 at our first event. Just really, really good support. Something that I think I've recognized over the years, starting in 2010 and being here now. Back then, there wasn't as many fundraising events, I think. So soliciting companies and, you know, businesses, I think there was a lot less quote unquote competition. You know, there's a lot of causes, at least in my community. So that becomes challenging, you know, as the years have gone by. But in 2010, we immediately outgrew our location. The park was like, we cannot, unfortunately, accommodate this growing walk. So we were left to move our location, and that's why we started to call it the Monmouth County Walk. So we stayed in Monmouth County. We moved to actually Monmouth University, which is where I'm an alumni of. Beautiful, beautiful campus. And we did it there for, I'm just going to say about maybe 5 or 6 years. And we then outgrew that location. They just really couldn't accommodate us again. We were raising over $150,000 every year. We were reaching, you know, 800 to 1,000 participants every year, and they just couldn't accommodate us. They since regretted, I think, kicking us off, but whatever. So now we actually do it at the beach, which is a beautiful location. It's called Pier Village in Long Branch, New Jersey, still in Monmouth County. We wanted to obviously keep it there. And we're averaging about 1,000 participants pre-COVID. And we kind of had a little bit of a decline with moving the location. People have to pay to park. It's just, it's in June, so people are starting to be at the beach. And so, but it's a beautiful location. It's on the boardwalk. And we did hit over 150,000 our last year, which was 2019. So to date, the walk has raised about, and I could be a little bit off, but about 1.3 million since 2010. I think we did about 50,000 last year when we were virtual. And virtual really wasn't my thing. So, it was really just the support that we already had from the Lustgarten Foundation and from the website. And people thought that the walk was going to happen. Obviously, last year, we really didn't think that this COVID would cause it to be canceled for a June event. So, and what else? Oh, so I started the walk in memory of my mom. My mom passed away in 2008 at 56. She had pancreatic cancer for about 2 years, and she did not do like routine treatment. She didn't do chemotherapy. She did all like alternative treatment, and she was just she really fought to to be with us longer than she could. She knew that it was obviously she didn't have a good diagnosis, but she kept fighting to be with us longer than they had originally told her, which she did. She definitely did. So she passed in 2008. In 2008 or 9, I started going to other events. I went to Long Island. I went to Paramus, New Jersey, and just realized that, we really needed something locally in our community. So, a lot of my family was like, oh, I don't want to drive to New York or whatever, North Jersey. So that's why, I said, well, let's just start something here, really not realizing, what I was getting into, but it's been great. And what is the other questions? I'm sorry, I'm just looking. So we're at about 1,000 people. We've been doing it since 2010. And we have really good support. I actually don't live in Monmouth County anymore. I live about an hour south of where the walk is. So, some of the challenges is still like going up to my old community and really like trying to solicit new companies. We do a really large raffle. We were bringing in a vendor sale this year. We do a lot of stuff for the kids. So we're just really trying to, just continue with those relationships. And every year I try and build, get a few new ones. But, being an hour away, having a young child now, it can be challenging, but, and I do it all by myself. So I'm trying to really, I already have a committee for my raffle this year. And I think that that's like, one of the most important things that I want to do everything myself. And, I think that since COVID and since having a family, my big thing is, for next year, start early and delegate and have. So I'm really excited to have a raffle committee, because the raffle is a lot of work and doesn't bring in a ton of money. It brings in a couple $1,000s, but it's just really, it's really for the fun of it. It's just something that people love to walk away with something. And just the last thing I'll say is I know that a couple of people have touched on it before, is, the walk is really, is a celebration. And I think that the first year I did it, it was just so emotional, and it was, just for my mom. And back then, we actually called it, my mom's name was Cleo. We actually called it the Cleo Toscana Walk. And I think as the years, went on, and obviously we needed to brand things more appropriately. And by making it the Monmouth Walk, it touches, it's able to be like, I don't know if the right word is, but make everyone connect to it, as opposed to just, my mom. I know why I do it, but, I want everyone there to be celebrating the lives of, who they've lost, or celebrating the lives of who's still here. So that's what we really focus on, a lot of memorial activities that day, and bringing up the survivors. And yeah, that's really.
Thank you, Nicole. I mean, clearly whatever you were doing pre-pandemic, you were doing right. If you kept outgrowing your walk, that's never, I know it poses challenges, but it's never a bad problem to have. And then I'm glad you mentioned delegation, because we are going to be talking about that in the workshop as well too. So thanks for raising your hand and letting us know that that was a challenge for you. Okay, great. Up next, we have Paramus, New Jersey. Is Jean Weber there?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone.
And how are you doing?
Thank you so much for hosting this. I am absolutely inspired by all of your stories. I lost my husband, who I've known since we were sophomores in high school, in 2005. And in 2006, my 2 daughters and several friends went to Long Island for the walk. And I asked Anne at the time, well, why don't you have one of these in New Jersey? And she said, we have never had anybody to organize one. Well, my daughter said, Mom, you want to do this? We're in. We all went to lunch, and all of a sudden I was doing a walk. And it has really grown tremendously through the years. We started it, I guess, in 2007. I think we've raised over $2 million at this point. We try to make this a day of hope and of celebration to all those who have been lost. We start off the morning with a doo-wop group that sings. We have face painters for the kids. We have a photo booth, so all of the teams get their photos taken, and all of the names of the teams are announced by our DJ. We have our survivors and patients lead the walk, and we have a big sign that says survivors, patients, and all of their families walk with them. I've reached out, and every year we do get Starbucks coffee. We get bagels. I get donations for juice boxes. Shake Shack comes and gives out custard. We've been fortunate enough to get Applebee's, who has been coming and making hamburgers and hot dogs, and various other companies that have been wonderful. It takes a lot of legwork. I have literally gone to every hospital in Bergen County, and every one of them are sponsors of our walk. Every one of the malls in Paramus are sponsors. I reach out to nursing homes, to all of the supermarkets. The banks are tremendous, because many of them do have charitable foundations that you can reach out to. I have several little coin collecting jars, which I leave in one diner in particular. I collect every year at least $600, $700, $800 that people just toss in there, and I pick up the money every now and then. And again, it's car dealerships also are a great source, and some of the realtors. It's about reaching out to everybody. Tell your story to everyone. Ask them to help. Tell them how important it is to have research money, and that all of the money goes to only research and not to any administrative costs. I think that makes a big, big difference to people. I try to reach out to everyone, friends, relatives, neighbors, all of the associations that I belong to. And I send our letter out to all of our people on our committee and ask them to please send it out to their friends, relatives, and neighbors, and so on. Again, it's each one reach one type of thing. And I know we've had up to 1,000 people show up at ours. And I am so delighted that this year we're going to be able to hold our walk again September 26th at Bergen Community College. And I look forward to somebody from Lustgarten participating. And last year, of course, we couldn't do the walk. New Jersey was literally shut down, which Nicole knows. And but we did raise about $55,000, I think, just through letters that went out to people. But I want to thank Lustgarten for all they are doing. And together we will beat this. We will do this. And I thank you again.
Thank you, Jean. And it's, it's so nice to hear all the different types of grassroots efforts you're doing in your community, and that you're also engaging committee members in doing that as well too. What was that? I think you said each one reach one. I love that. That's terrific.
You know, may I just say one more thing?
Mhm.
When I go out and knock on doors and go to all these various businesses, I carry a copy of last year's poster. I carry one of the shirts. And so when I'm presenting to new companies, I show them, your name should be on here with us. Look at the exposure you're getting. We have your signage along the walk. Everyone likes to see their name in print, no doubt about it. And when you show them, you know, it's a matter of at that first car dealership. And this way, when you go into the second, you say, look who's with us. You should be there also. Everyone wants to be with their competition. So don't be afraid to name drop. That's it.
Great. That's great advice. Thank you. Okay, so I'm actually gonna jump around a little bit because we have one of our walk leaders on, and I know she's extremely busy because their walk is this weekend in Naperville, Illinois. So Jen, I was wondering if you're there, if you want to hop on real quick and just say hello to everybody.
Sure. Hi there, everybody. I am Jen Tedrow. I am one of the co-leaders of the Naperville Walk. I'm actually just coming from picking up some donations, so I apologize for the.
Don't apologize for that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good problem to have. So yeah, we're in our 11th year at Naperville. I've been involved with Lustgarten for about 5 years now. After my father passed away from pancreatic cancer. And the walk was already going here, so I joined. Ann Zedeker was the one who started it here in Naperville, and I've kind of joined forces with her, and we are excited for our walk this weekend. It actually looks like it's going to be a little better than expected, so we're excited.
Yeah, this is now our third in-person walk, and the numbers are very promising right now for Naperville. They're definitely way ahead of where they were at this point last year in registrants when it was virtual. So this is it's really great news, and I'm glad, Jen, that you were able to join us here. So thank you very much.
Sure, happy to be here.
Great. And okay, so back to our list. We're going back now to, it looks like we might have just lost Cheryl from Syracuse. She just sent a note to everybody. So fortunately, we just missed her. So we will then shoot over to Westboro, Massachusetts with Maria.
Hi. Oh,
hi.
Did I? Okay.
You're on. You're live.
Hi, everybody. Okay. All right. So I got connected with the Lustgarten Foundation back in 2008. My mother had passed away. Even upon her diagnosis, I didn't realize how incredibly underfunded the pancreatic cancer was. And I knew that we needed to, or I needed to do something, not only to honor my mother, but to offer fighting chances for people that would be diagnosed in the future. So I got connected with them. We did the Boston walk shortly after my mother had passed away, just a few months later. And I said, we need to start a walk in my mother's honor. And so 2009, we started Bridgewater, New Jersey. That's where I'm from, but I live in Massachusetts. So I was back and forth, and I had a new baby. My daughter's now 14, but you know, so I could shuffle back and forth, you know, Massachusetts to Bridgewater. I did that for a few years. And then I started Westboro in 2010. The last live one was 2 years ago. And that was our 10th year, our big 10-year anniversary, which was really great. So I am so impressed throughout the years to see and listen to all these stories and to get the support that I've received throughout the years from the Lustgarten Foundation. It makes it so, I feel like, easy to get this kind of done. We do things kind of on a simpler scale in Westboro. you know, it's me and one other woman, Angela Callery, and we kind of spin our heads and run around, and we've tried all different kinds of things, but right now it's basically a run walk, 5K run walk, and then a 10K run. And, you know, we are hoping to continue and expand, but getting to the point where we get some more sponsors. And that's where I guess our weakness is, just because we've just focused on, you know, simpler things. And, you know, we typically get around 400. We've had as many as 700 runners and walkers, and probably to this date have raised over $600,000. I think I could be a little off, but we would certainly like that to grow. And it is, I just appreciate this opportunity to hear people's stories and get some information. You know, maybe one of these days I'll actually get a committee other than me and Angela, because that would really be extremely helpful. But my daughter, you know, she's grown up seeing this, and I hope that she will become eventually my predecessor and, you know, take this over, and because she's been active and really involved. So I probably could go on and on, but that's, yes.
If you can't find one, make one. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Maria. We appreciate all that you're doing there as well too. And we've actually got a lot of great volunteers and participants in the Massachusetts area, through your event, through Boston, through Easton. So it's you know, and as far as sponsors go and community development, we're going to be touching on all that stuff in a little bit. So stay tuned. Okay, great. Up next, we have my good friend in Westchester County, New York, Tara. How are you today, Tara?
I'm good. Good to see you and see everyone else. It's nice to see some friendly faces like Steph and Nicole and Sherry and her husband, and see new people who I've heard about all of your walks. So nice to see everyone's faces. So I created the Westchester Walk in 2010 after my mom, Gigi, passed away in 2009. She passed away in April of 2009. After an 11-month battle with pancreatic cancer. She was only 51 when she was diagnosed. I was 24. And her last words that she ever said to me in the hospital was that she wanted to bring a victory flag to pancreatic cancer. So I've taken her words and have dedicated myself to creating the Westchester Walk, wear purple all the time. Everyone knows my husband and I as the purple people. My students, I'm a teacher, everything in my classroom is purple. So I try to take the walk and take my mom's death and make it into something hopeful and positive. And so we started the walk, or I started the walk originally with my dad in 2010. I've been doing it more by myself mostly since then. My husband has been wonderful since I met him, and he's been an integral part of helping. It's like a co-leader. We have a very small committee, if we'd call it that. A couple of really dedicated team leaders for sure, and friends who've helped kind of do the thing that they are really good at doing. And mostly a lot of it is my husband and I organizing most of it. Since 2010, so it's been 12 years. This year and last year have been virtual walks. So luckily we were able to do our 10th year walk, which was our big walk in person. So that was exciting. And in the 12 years, we've raised over $4 million for pancreatic cancer in Westchester. The walk takes place in Rye, New York, at Playland Amusement Park, where my mom and I and my family took walks every day. Growing up, my mom also grew up in Rye. So it's a special place, meaningful. It's along Long Island Sound. So it's really special, beautiful. And again, like a lot of other people spoke, trying to make it inspiring. We actually started at another park just along the way, but outgrew it. And then now we're at Playland, so we have a big parking lot to keep expanding as much as we can. We've had, usually I think, had over 2,000 people, participants, but we started with 100, I think. And we had a bunch of years of all rain. The first year was very rainy, and then just keep persevering throughout the years. And we typically just have a lot of teams. Westchester, while we raised $4 million, which is amazing, unfortunately also means that a lot of community members and family members have been affected by pancreatic cancer. So we're grateful for the teams that do come back, and we've always want to grow our sponsorship. So I'm not sure if we'd say that's a strength area, but we want to continue to grow that. We get a local news station and radio station. That's been helpful. A couple of hospitals throughout the years, as well as more recent hospital, Northwell, through Lustgarten, has been able to support the New York area walks. So that's been great. And just every year trying to grow it bigger, and looking forward to in-person. I appreciate the neighborhood walks, but it's definitely not the same. So we're excited to be back in person and hopefully make it bigger. And yeah, one story is we had Catherine Zeta-Jones one year come, so that was pretty exciting. And the reason she actually came was not obviously to be a movie star, but she actually came because her son was helping for his bar mitzvah to fundraise for, I think it was a grandparent who died from pancreatic cancer. So that's just another way that we've actually had a lot of families participate through bar and bat mitzvahs and other fundraisers through their church or temples or things like that, which are more special to them. So like I started for my mom, but now other people are using it as ways to honor their own family members. And so that's been really helpful.
That's terrific. Thank you so much, Tara. And I appreciate Tara as well, too. I put her through her paces during our promotion of the Westchester Walk. I knew as a teacher, she's been on Zoom a lot. So I knew when I called on her, she would be camera ready for a number of programs that we were doing online. So thank you, Tara. So I know we missed Michelle earlier. I just wanted to give her a quick minute to hop in and say hi before we move on to the rest of our program. Michelle in Howard County, are you there?
I'm there if you can. Yes, can you hear her through me? Jason, can you hear her?
I hear you.
Okay.
Hello?
Talk, Michelle, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can't hear Jason.
That's okay, they can hear you, go ahead.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Michelle, and yes, I work with Laura and Kim for the Howard County Walk. Unfortunately, we're going to have we're going to need help this year because Kim is not going to be able to be our team lead any longer. She's been doing it for 10 years. I can't be a lead, but I definitely will be in there, doing as much as I can with health issues. And Laura, we're trying to figure out, she might be out of town. So, this is very important to me as I have lost my mother. It was 4 years ago in January, 4 years ago in June. She passed within 5 months, and her sister just passed in this past January. So it's a very important cause for me. And since we're so close to Johns Hopkins, last year we were able to get them involved and down here, but Howard County needs I need some kind of instructional push because we can never get over 20K. And I know our Howard County has a lot more money than that. So there's a lot of things I need to talk to somebody about, but I just wanted to give my voice, say hello to everybody. Anybody have any suggestions to help me? Can I give you my email?
Well, we're gonna spend some time talking about that today, but then this is not the last we're gonna be talking to everybody. We're gonna be doing a lot of individual follow-up, and I'd be happy to sit down with you with the rest of our team to talk about your specific needs in Howard County.
Just one more thing. Laura has to leave at 2 for a doctor. I have to leave at 2:30 for a doctor.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're going to do a recap and send us something,
We're
or
going to be recording this right now, and we'll be sending it out to everybody. So anything you missed, you'll be able to watch a little bit later, along with some other materials that we'll send out.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
so much, Michelle. Appreciate you guys being on and joining us today, even for part of the session. And finally,
It was great meeting you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, last but not least, I would like to bring on Carrie Kaplan, who is a president here at Lustgarten Foundation. I know many of you know Kerry and worked with her over the years. So we definitely wanted to bring her in to say hello as well too. Hi, Kerry.
Hi, it's so great to see all the little boxes, and I have to say, while I really know all your stories, sitting through this and hearing you, give more details and really tell the whole backstory and add some color, it just really continues to inspire me. I think it was Suzanne maybe who talked about, that when you were here in 2017 and you saw the organoid facility, and now, 5 years later, seeing, how much has changed and how much the research has moved forward. I mean, really, that could only happen because of you. These walks, everybody talked about, I was sort of adding in my head. I mean, we have the number, but it's millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars raised by all of these walks, and with the leadership of all of you. We really, it was a big loss with the pandemic, not having in-person events. For some of you, it was 2 years. Actually, the last traveling that I did for Lustgarten was in March of 2020. I was at an event in Naples, and then I was on the East Coast at the Boca Walk with Neil. So it was such an honor to be there and to have been at a walk, and we really, really missed it over the next 15 months or so. But you guys, all of you, did everything that you could to make the neighborhood walks as successful as they could be. And I saw lots of pictures of everybody running around their neighborhoods and posting on Facebook and giving shout outs. And, that was really so appreciated. And now you're here and you're back. And, we just wanted to have this day just to, regroup with everyone and get everybody motivated and refreshed. And, a couple of people ask questions, and they want to hear from the people who are sponsorships are working. So that's what today is about. And, I hope we'll provide a little inspiration, but really it's all of you that provide so much inspiration to us back in our office in Woodbury. So thank you for being with us today. And thank you for all you've done over the many, many, many years. All right, Jason, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you. And with that, thank you all for introducing yourselves. I'm going to shift it over back to Linda now, who's going to tee up the next part of this session. Linda.
Hi, Jason. Hi, everyone again. And thanks to Kerry. Kerry has been living and breathing these walks for the over 15 years that she's been with the foundation. And I know she's been such an inspiration to all of you and has provided her great fundraising insights and expertise. And we'll look forward, obviously, to Kerry to continuing to inspire and working with all of us as we move forward to the next season of our walks, which we're so excited for. So as we move into the second half of our summit, I encourage you all, hopefully you all got your Uber Eats gift certificates. I hope you ordered. I encourage you to, if you haven't had your lunch, to please have your lunch, stand up, take a break if you need to. But I don't want you to take a break because I do want to introduce our next speaker, and we will have time for questions in between each of these rounds of speakers. So excited to introduce you to Dr. Steven Kowalski. Dr. Kowalski has more than 25 years of expertise in the field of creativity and innovation. He holds a PhD in adult learning and organizational creativity from UCLA and is the author of over 100 workplace learning programs. As the principal product development and excellence for Genentech, Steven delivers innovation programs and has led key HR initiatives, including work and career flexibility, the future of work, and launching Genentech's Employee Career Center. His latest book, Gifted, is scheduled for publication this year. Steven offers a unique approach for helping leaders and teams succeed when results depend on ingenuity, agility, co-creation, and endurance in the face of obstacles. I'm especially pleased that Steven could be with us today and to share his so many gifts and insights. And thank you, Steven.
Thanks so much, Linda, for inviting me to join today. And hello to all the walk leaders and Lustgarten staff. I'm really honored and excited to be here with you today. I'll have a few brief remarks and then we'll have a chance to have some discussion. But I'm going to start off with a few big questions. What do you want to do with your creativity today? And in terms of leadership, what do you want to achieve? What legacy do you want to leave? Today, I'm going to invite you to try on a new way of thinking about yourselves as leaders. And that begins with reclaiming the power of your creativity and how you can use it to co-create and share leadership. In my experience with working with scientific and medical leaders and product specialists, I've observed over the years that successful leadership calls us to co-create. So here's the good news. Our creativity is not an ability, as most of us believe, doled out in different doses to different people. It's actually a potential. What that means is it's always there in each and every one of us, whenever we need it, when the circumstances call for it. Like now, when we need to re-envision community and community walks and fundraising for research. In fact, we have unlimited potential to invent solutions to the challenges and opportunities in our lives. So what kind of circumstances get our creativity going? Turns out that creativity is activated at the intersection of three powerful forces: purpose, possibility, and constraint. Like the purpose you all share, supporting research into pancreatic cancer so that people and their loved ones can celebrate life free of disease. As community walk leaders, you also share a key constraint, this pandemic that's changed our lives in a flash. And what that means is that people coming together for walks, it doesn't work yet. You also share all the possibilities of envisioning new ways to fundraise, maybe differently than we have in the past. So with a meaningful purpose, with all the constraints around us, and with all the possibilities we can envision, that's where creativity sparks alive. That's where new ideas are born. So let me ask again, what do you want to do with your leadership and your creativity today? And how might you work together to co-create new solutions, to be a force for progress? Answering this last question might mean we have to rewire how we create together. First, seeing beyond what's been before to envision a different future together. What opportunities might be right around us right now that we might be missing? What assumptions, biases, and preferences might we have to clear away to see these opportunities? And how can we look over the horizon to anticipate how the landscape is changing, maybe in ways that serve our purpose, but also in ways that might challenge our purpose? To co-create, we'll also need to leverage the power of our networks and stand together. That means instead of just maybe bringing people along in service to our vision, we're developing a shared dream, a shared purpose together. And to co-create, we'll need to dance in the space between me and we, where we let go of some of our individuality in service to a vision that's stronger and more sustainable because it's built in community together. Now let's talk a little bit about sharing leadership. To co-create solutions, we'll have to think differently about leadership. What if leadership, like creativity, is actually a potential and not an ability? What if we all have the potential to lead from every seat when the circumstances call us forward into leadership instead of being appointed? To share leadership, we'll need to let go of the power of position and trust each other that we're using the same shared principles to guide decisions and actions. We'll need to move past even the smallest hint at protecting turf, to share ideas and resources generously. To share leadership, we'll need to become allies and mentors and coaches for each other, catalyzing each other's potential. And we'll need to craft alliances where instead of capturing value for ourselves, we co-create value for all. So let's pause for a moment. I'd love to hear from you in a moment. You share a powerful purpose. We know about the constraints around us that are causing us and calling us to challenge and change the status quo. To complete the intersection, we need possibilities. So how might you strengthen amongst yourselves a sense of community? And how can you share leadership and co-create new solutions together? I'd like to open up the floor and hear from you, and we can use the chat. Let's hear from some of you.
Hello, Stephen.
Hi.
I'd like to lead to a bigger and better event. I'd like to lead to more awareness of a cure for pancreatic cancer. And what I'm fighting for most is a test, getting closer to it, getting a test like we get for the PSA, a pap smear, a colonoscopy. So we can go in and be tested for it, not have it hit us when it's too late.
Yes. Thanks, Neil.
You got it, Steve. Oh, also, I want to get, before we get off, I want to get the phone numbers of some of the people I spoke to. I must get in contact with you around the country. We have to speak after. Thank you.
And Neil, we'll share everyone's contact information so we can.
Oh, great, Linda. Thank you.
To Stephen's point, strengthening community is being in touch with each other and asking each other for support and being there for each other. Neil, you mentioned that you would go to the LA walk, and what better show of support for our friends in LA than for you to bring your family to their walk. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Great example of standing together.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say something that one of the things that I heard you say was about leadership, and one of the ways to be a good leader is to let go sometimes. And I think all of us on this screen are all a bunch of A-type personalities or else we wouldn't be doing what we do. And sometimes that is the hardest thing to do, to let go, because we all have such a personal connection and we are all capable and we've gotten our walks and events to where they are. But sometimes it's hard to let go. We want committee support, but sometimes that's hard to let go of certain things too. And ultimately that might be what I have to do, I know, in certain regards, to allow it to grow and be beyond us. Just a thought.
Thanks, Lori. That's so important. Sharing leadership really depends on being able to let go and step up and step back, and in that dance, right? Empowering others and showing leadership. If leadership can come from any seat, that's the beauty of it. Leadership can come from any seat. Then when we're called into leadership, we rise up and serve that call. Thanks, Lori. Other thoughts, other reflections?
Stephen, could you talk a little bit about empowering others and what that might look like in practice?
Sure. Empowering, sometimes the way we think about empowering, I know in corporate contexts that I'm familiar with, usually that means that someone in power sort of hands control over to somebody else, but doesn't actually really hand control over to somebody else. It stays the decision maker. I think that one of the keys, you have to have a kind of radical accountability for empowerment to work. Right. And so when I empower someone, or someone takes that power within their own hands, right, it's so critical to know who's the decision maker. And one of the things I see often is people stay sort of thinking, oh, I'm still the decision maker and I'm going to tell you what to do and you better come to me for input. And why haven't they come to me for input, right? So there's so many dynamics at play, right? But the critical thing is, who is the decision maker? And then how can I share my wisdom, my experience as considerations for that person instead of must-haves or things you have to do, you have to implement my vision, right? So I share my appreciations and my considerations to the person who is the decision maker, and I leave it up to them to decide how to incorporate my wisdom. And a lot of people think, okay, I'm empowered now. I don't have to ask anybody for input. I don't have to ask for suggestions and so forth. Actually, I think the responsibility becomes greater to cast a wider net for input, and then to take those considerations and appreciations for what's been expressed and fold them into our plan and let people know how they've influenced our decision-making. Those are a few thoughts, Linda. Thanks for asking.
Helpful, thank you.
I was gonna say, I know for me, like with the delegating is so hard, but I know that the day of the walk, I feel like I'm really good at delegating, and like everyone has their like set area, like, you know, one of my friends has been doing the team photos and she just kind of owns that. And then the day of for the raffle, they own that. But I think for me, it's more about the preparation. And so, you know, it's one day. And if we didn't delegate that one day, we would literally be running around sweating. So I think that I'm really good at that day delegating and having everyone do what they're supposed to do. But my challenge is in preparation, because I think we all know, being in this world, that so many people are like, oh, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. And then they sometimes don't. And sometimes it's not us not delegating. I think it's really finding that balance of people that want to help and people that really will help. And so I don't know, that's been a challenge for me, and I think that's why I pull back, because it's like, and rather me wait for you to do it, I'll just do it myself. I'll do it you know, at 11 o'clock at night, or, you know, on the weekends, or whenever I have free time, because I will get it done. But I think that, you know, by having, you know, delegating in preparation of your event and having committees doing it in preparation of, you're just going to get, you're inevitably going to raise more money because more people are speaking of the walk. So
yes, there's a part of that. I'd go back to something I said earlier about standing together. Standing together is really different than sort of bringing people along. And I've heard this over and over again, you know, we need to bring people along. That's really different than standing together. And so to what Lori had mentioned earlier, there is some letting go, but there's also, you know, what I referenced with Linda, radical accountability, right? And one of the things I've seen the work the best is when I know and when everyone knows exactly who is the owner of this action or this activity or this piece of the puzzle. Who's the owner? Who is the decision maker? And knowing that in terms of that radical accountability can be really helpful.
Recording in progress.
I think that I just wanted to jump in on that, Stephen. Lola Clay said something that I found very powerful, which is that in using our voice in our purpose is a mechanism and an avenue and a channel for healing, for dealing with grief, for accessing and working through the grief. And I think that to some extent, using our voice does is maybe the flip side of the radical accountability coin.
Yeah, and can you say more as you think about that? How would that show up in this situation where you're deciding, can I delegate? Can I trust? Are you saying give voice to sort of open up the discussion and opening up the dialogue there? Yeah.
The giving voice to the purpose is a way of, I think, giving voice to our purpose is a way of empowering others.
Yes.
It becomes contagious.
And building that purpose together. That's why when this purpose is shared and the purpose is super clear, then we can trust each other. we're making decisions and we're using that purpose as our North Star to make decisions and take actions. And that's when the trust sort of opens up in the spaces between us, and as we work to make these important events happen. Maybe, do we have time for one last comment or question?
I have a comment if we do have time. It's something that I've heard echoed in the delegation. And I think as Lori said, we're all type A. And so we've started these walks for a reason, and we have a vision, and we will stay up all night and get things done. But something that's helped me, well, one is I just don't have, the time that I would love to dedicate. So by force, I have to delegate. So how do I do that and maintain sanity within myself? And that is trusting those you're delegating to. If they're big tasks, it's someone that is going to get it done. And you may not love every way they do everything. And smaller tasks, if they don't happen, and accepting that. So an example is the guy that helps me, I'm going to call it, with permit logistics and setup and all of that. I said to him, hey, you're a custom home builder. You know how to do like a permit and set up a walk, right? And he says, well, I've never done it before, but I'll do it. And, all of those ins and outs of porta potties, we've got to have certain water stations, certain distances apart for permitting purposes. I have never touched anything in that area and just trusted that he would do it. And he did. And morning of our first walk, he's got cones, he's got porta potties, he's got picnic tables, he's got trash cans. So trusting the person that will do the job. The other is, people like Nicole said, oh, I want to help. I'm so inspired. I want to help. Absolutely. What would you like to do? Building on to what it is that they think that they can do so that the expectations are managed. I think I could get the Hawks cheerleaders to come to the walk and be there to be cheerleaders at the start finish line. Great, you do that, you own that. Knowing that if they don't show up, your walk is not going to be, we will go on without the Hawks cheerleaders, I promise. But the fact that they're there and that person felt like they contributed is special to them. So it's kind of like managing your expectations, but also the task. I would never task that person with a day of setup. And I think that it sounds like most of us do this with close friends and families, and they know what would be acceptable to you and not acceptable to you. So, my family runs registration, t-shirts, raffle, everything. I get a question if something's crazy, or, hey, this family's here and you need to talk to them because, they just lost a loved one. And so it's kind of like when they know what your vision is because you've communicated it, you can safely delegate that task. So the day of the walk, morning, I'm crazy, but when we start and we finish, I hug and high five every single person that goes across the start line and the finish line. And that is because of the ability to delegate.
That's great, Steph. You've built a real solid core of trust amongst the folks that you're working with and partnering with. One of the key elements of trust is someone's self-orientation. And I think, as you think about people to partner with, that's something that you can suss out. Is this person oriented towards others in service? Is this person oriented toward themselves? That's one of the key factors, in addition to credibility and sort of knowing folks. Those are some of the key elements of trust. Well, I think we may have gone over our time a little bit, but I just wanted to say thank you for all those insights and ideas and reflections, and maybe a couple of closing thoughts. Something to remember. Successful leadership requires us to co-create, and your creativity is unlimited. We didn't unpack this notion of the difference between an ability and a potential, but remember, as a potential, your creativity is unlimited, and it rises up to meet the circumstances. It's not whether you have it or not. It's there when you need it. And in fact, together with love, our creativity is probably the most sustainable, renewable resource we have. So I'll ask again and leave you with my original question. What will you do today together with your leadership and your creativity? And with that, I'll say thank you and leave you for the rest of your event.
Steven, Stephen, thank you so much. I could listen to this all day, and hopefully you'll come back and visit us again during one of our next team leader summits. You definitely gave us so much to chew on. And what I really loved most about what I loved all of it, but that purpose is our North Star. And to your point about if you trust the people that they have the same sense of service in their hearts, which is purpose, are we purpose driven, but also purpose in terms of our mission. So purpose is our North Star. So thank you, Stephen. So special. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye. So I'm pleased to bring back Jason Rice, our National Walk Director, and someone who some of you might know, but you haven't met her yet today, but she is actually the woman behind the curtain, Stephanie Alcia, who's our VP of Marketing and Communications, who is pushing all the buttons and running all of this for us today. And Stephanie, bring yourself on. And Stephanie has also figured out the technological glitch behind that video. So we'll be able to share that video with you later on before we close. Stephanie, are you coming on? We're going to.
I am. I apologize. Great. I'm trying to get my camera back on. You know, it's always something.
So this next segment is called Community is Power, Resilience, and Perseverance. And Jason's going to talk about reinvigorating our community walks, leadership in a post-pandemic world. Jason, take it away. Jason, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. So the discussions so far have been great because they really are leading up to today's workshop, which is intended to help you recalibrate your team building strategies in order to set, meet, and hopefully exceed your fundraising goals for your next walk event. And what we're hearing a lot of today are that walk leaders are doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to the pre-programming and the programming of the day of the event. So a little bit earlier this week, and for some of you it was maybe just this morning, I sent around an org chart that has an outline of some of the key roles for what should be a walk committee that is supporting you in your efforts, not only on walk day, but throughout the year. So, and I know many of you, and I was gonna say by show of hands, but it's become pretty apparent that most of the walk leaders here are wearing a lot of these hats that are on this org chart and really doing, again, a lot of the heavy lifting. So today we wanted to spend some time discussing these key roles, how you can find volunteers that you can then delegate some of these responsibilities to. I think delegate is sort of the word of the day. But before we dig into the org chart, first, I just want to set expectations. You know, this is a lot of new information that we're giving out today, and we understand we're also in a state of rebuilding. So our expectation is that this is going to be used as a starting off point. We know that you're not going to fill all of these roles right away, but we wanted to give you guys some guidance on where to maybe start, thinking about places that you need that additional support. Second, I want to, because we're running over, over our time a little bit here, I want to reiterate this will not be our only meeting. We understand we're covering a fraction of what maybe you or your committee may need. So not only will there be individual follow-up after this, myself and my team with Lisa and Suzanne and Randy, but we'll also be holding more of these summits in the future. So because we're all more comfortable with this virtual technology now, we are going to be moving ahead with planning these events more frequently. So that's the good news. So let's talk first about your role as a walk leader. I think Susan Jacobson, who I think many of you spoke with leading up to today, had a great analogy where she said, successful community fundraising is a lot like fielding a winning team. Well, as a walk leader, you're playing both the manager and the coach. So part of your role is to recruit the players, but then also to deploy them based on their talents, their time, and their treasure. So, and then from there, you manage this flow, starting with that first walk committee meeting, all the way through to breaking down the walk day when your last team crosses the finish line. And we know this is a lot, and we greatly appreciate all the work that each of you put in your event, which is why we want to set you up for success starting today. So I'm going to take a few minutes to touch on each of these roles and responsibilities, what we think are sort of must-haves for a community walk volunteer committee. And we're going to use that org chart to illustrate that. So I was wondering if you don't have the org chart in front of you, I think Steph's going to put it up on the screen real quick for us. So the org chart is really a framework, and it's not so much about the titles or where one person's responsibilities stop and another starts, but to really give you a tool to help you envision all these roles in one place, so then you can start adding in the volunteers that you need. I have to admit too, this is a little self-serving, for our team, because an org chart helps us to establish some foundation-wide baseline of expectations for our volunteers. It's our chance to also create some synchronicity between all of our walks across the country. And then it also will help us create materials that you need to recruit, to manage, and to track your committee and your volunteer efforts. So we're putting a lot of stock in this. We think it's a great way to get things started with all of you. And so like I said, I'm going to touch on each of these, but I encourage you to take some notes, jot down some names next to some of these roles. Maybe these are roles that you've already been filling. Maybe it's you that are still in these roles, so that's fine to start off with. But as we go along, I hope you put a little bit more thought into people you can approach to help in these areas. So the other thing too I want to mention is that one of these sort of pillars here is walk day logistics, which there's just no getting around. We understand we still have to put the event on, and that as walk leaders on the ground that a lot of that falls on some of you. But we don't want to spend a lot of time on that today, because if I had to ask everybody here where they spend most of their time, it's probably on this column. So today we want to focus on some of these other columns, starting with participant engagement. Which is really the area of recruitment of both new and returning teams. What your committees can do to be reaching out to past teams, to engaging new teams, and not only just friends and family teams, but also organizations such as corporate teams, community groups, religious groups, schools, clubs, etc. And then once they're recruited, what do their fundraising efforts look like? We send out a lot of materials here, and we have a lot of guides online, but a lot of times it's your committee that's interacting with these folks, and they themselves are formidable fundraisers. So in what ways are they sharing their own experiences and best practices to get these teams to do their best in fundraising? And then finally, we also have third-party fundraisers, which we wanted to mention because we are seeing more and more of these mini events held throughout the year. And not only are they great for raising additional funds, but it's also a great way to potentially recruit or steward local supporters. I know there's a number of them out there that I'm going to actually let you guys talk about in a little bit in a minute. But these are great ways to continue to keep that message going throughout the year. We also have the communications and marketing. So Steph is going to talk in a minute a little bit more about how you can help amplify Lustgarten's messaging, both on the ground as well as in your community. And then of course, also online. And I know online for many of you is sort of uncharted territory. So we're going to discuss that a little bit too. And then of course, the importance, again, over and over, we heard tonight that the importance of sharing your own mission and your own stories, and how that really connects with what we're doing with the importance of, why you're doing it in your community. And then finally, we have someone who's going to be talking a little bit here, who's got a wealth of experience in sponsorship. Again, we heard that a few times today about, everybody feels like they could be probably doing a little bit better in sponsorship. So he's going to arm you with a new elevator speech for sponsors with a focus on the impact that Lustgarten research is having in your own community. Because again, I think a few people have reiterated the importance of reminding people of that connection to the community, and not just, this national organization, this global organization that's funding research. How does that translate to what's happening on the ground in your neighborhood? So first I want to start with going back to participant engagement, and I actually like to bring Linda back into this part of the conversation, who has a wealth of experience in this area from her previous role at Komen. Linda? Oh, you're still on mute, Linda.
We should have those t-shirts that everyone's making. You're still on mute. So when I'm building a team, I like to think about must-haves and then good to have. And we also always have to think about not having, perfect being the enemy of good enough. And I think, as Steph was saying, well, they might not do it exactly the way I would do it, but the way they did it and got it done is good enough. And when we talk about building these programs, the essence of what we're doing, we want to have a great day, we want to have a perfect day, but the essence of what we're doing and our purpose is fundraising. And we know that's a very heavy lift, particularly in our post-pandemic world. How do we get back? So what we all thought we would do now is go around the room and talk about what is essential to meeting your fundraising goals, and what is it that you have to have, what is it that you need, how can our team help you, and what thoughts that what are your key learnings from your successes? People can unmute themselves and chime in. Oh, and let's also talk about the hardest roles that you, what are the most difficult roles that you can't fill? What is it that you struggle with when finding volunteers?
I'd like to say that my most difficult role is actually getting people to ask for money for sponsors. I basically do all of the fundraising on my own for sponsorships. And whereas people will help out as far as putting posters out, sending letters out to their contacts, and being there the day of the walk, nobody is willing to ask for the money. And even though I keep telling them, you're not asking for yourself, you're asking for a very important cause, you know, that's important to you and to everyone else, but everyone is very timid about asking. So I find that I am constantly running, knocking on the door, sending letters out, doing follow-up calls. So what suggestions do you have?
So one thing that I've always found is people often don't know what they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know who they know, and they don't know how who they know has potential. So for example, if you know that one of your people on your committee, that their brother-in-law owns a store, or that their sister-in-law is vice president of a bank, they might not make those connections by themselves. So you have to help draw those spider webs for them. I think if we say to our committee, well, just go raise money, they get stuck. And this is something certainly that Jason and his team can help provide some guidance on. We all know as community fundraisers, these cold calls can be agony. And probably for every 10 people you ask, maybe one person will say yes. So it's always best to start with the pebble in the pond, who is the closest to you, and then go out from there. So Jean, my best suggestion is to help draw those spider webs for your people.
I actually even give people a script as to what to say so they're not uncomfortable.
Yep.
But all I get is, oh, I don't like to ask for money. Okay, you know, what are you going to do? I'm happy for the, support that I receive. I only have one woman on the committee who has actually brought in one sponsor.
Jason, what are your thoughts as to how to help people encourage the fundraising?
So I think one of the things that can be done within the committee is to ask, even if they aren't willing to do the act themselves, if they can help make an introduction. Having someone who can do,
it's missing.
Having someone who can maybe do that first email or that first phone call with you, and then you can do the pitch. You just sort of need your foot in the door a lot of times to be able to go through. I see Sherry is nodding her head. I might ask Sherry to pipe in because I think she's pretty good at this. Sherry, do you want to share?
Sure. First of all, my mantra has always been, you can't get a yes if you're afraid of getting a no. And you could be gracious when you get that no and say, would you mind if I come back to you on a better year, which is important now because some businesses are still in the process of recovery. But every year at the walk, I ask anybody who is walking to contact a business and some association that they may have, and then feel free to pass on that to me. So if they do the cold call to somebody that they know and I don't know, and that person is then receptive, my call is easier. And it's never a one call, and it's always a follow-up. It's always a yes, we will sponsor you. And then, the tacky thing is, well, like, how much? And when can we expect the check? So there has to be, polite, smiling follow-ups so that the money actually gets in the door.
And she's very good at that.
Yeah.
And again, it's you've got to do it with a smile and with an appreciation, and especially now, because some businesses are not ready. Most years we do a very successful pick a prize auction, which is the politically correct term for the Chinese auction. And this year we will not do it because the local stores that always contribute did not do well over the year, and asking them for money now will insult them, and then next year I'll be unable to go to them again. So it's knowing who to go to when, and how to graciously accept a no and graciously nag after the yes until the money gets in the door.
Absolutely.
So Sherry, I have two thoughts on that. One for Jean and then one for your pick a prize. So Jean, I think what Sherry is saying, and it's excellent, is that Sherry will ask people to make the introduction for her, and then Sherry takes over. So that gets rid of the, I don't want to ask for money. Okay, well, you don't have to ask for money. You make the introduction for me, and I'll.
That's a great idea.
And then my other thought, Sherry, for your pick a prize, people might be sitting on a lot of points, American Express points, Amazon Prime, credit card points. Maybe people would use some of those points to purchase gifts for your pick a prize.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
That's a good idea.
Just quickly to piggyback on this whole conversation. Sorry, just to piggyback on the whole conversation about, I feel like it is a particularly challenging year to reach out to a lot of, even sponsors and businesses who've supported us in the past. And I think one thing that each year that we always talk about wanting to do more of, that I would love to do, is reach out more to the medical community, in particular, the local hospitals and doctors, because, everyone has causes that are so personal to them. And if we're able to find people who are affected by pancreatic cancer, a lot of times those families are looking for a way to get involved and to help and to feel like they're contributing in some way. And it's just getting to the right people, it's getting the word out. And so I think, reaching out to hospitals, doctors' offices in the community, that's something that I think we would love to focus on. And if anyone, at the Lustgarten has connections to, introduce us so that we can go and talk to people, I think that would be a great way to sort of, to get new people involved, possible sponsorships with the community that is personally invested in the cause. Because I think that's going to be important right now, because again,
yeah,
the causes right now.
And I can address that real quick. So yes, we see a lot of hospitals getting involved. I know Albany has St. Peter's. I know we have Northside Hospital in Atlanta. Here in York we have Northwell, and there's Memorial down in Boca. So there's a lot of interest. So much so now that Stuart, who's going to be joining us later to talk about sponsorships, he and I and some of the other members of our development team are working on a special package to reach out, because there is that connection, and there is a message that can be given that says, here is what Lustgarten has done over the last 20 plus years in developing research that is being used by your physicians, your doctors, your healthcare systems. And, so let's figure out a way to share that messaging in that community. So yes, when Stuart comes on, we could talk to him a little bit more about that, but that is something that we are working on right now.
One of the issues with the doctors' offices or like a Northside is they have a schedule you have to follow and a package you have to submit. So even if you know someone, you have to follow, because they have a board, and then the board reviews the package and they go through a whole process. So our first time around with that, there was a timeline. I went in to pitch. I think I pitched 3 meetings with them in order to get the package that would then go to the board. And so you have to remember your time, whatever your walk is, you've got to back up 3/4 from that to put your package in, if you can get a package in. I tried to do the same thing, even having connections at Delta, Coca-Cola, and Chick-fil-A. Each year, those have been rejected. Same with the Braves. The guy I'm telling you about that secures the porta potties. his close friend is the president of the Braves. We got in front of the board, but we could not get any further. So even if you have connections or you're like knocking on doors, you've got to be mindful of how their charitable process works and do the timeline and the package appropriately.
Right. And again, to Steph's point, if it's a large organization or a national organization, you're probably going to have some sort of protocol in place. But I don't want to be discouraged by potentially approaching either. And we're definitely here to help you with those relationships if you have a contact or if you have an in. Because the thing to keep in mind right now too is that everything is sort of up for grabs again right now, right? There's been a lot of churn because of the pandemic with how businesses are running, with their priorities, with either other partnerships they might have with other nonprofits who might not even be around anymore. So everything is new again, and I would take that sort of lens when you're thinking about it.
Jason, I wanted to say something about that. We have a local HMO that sponsored us for a number of years, and then when the number of health-related walks proliferated, they went on to a rotation, and we have not gotten for a long time. And for kicks and giggles, I approached them this time and got a yes in like a week.
Yeah.
So as some of our competition,
Jerry.
so that's one thing. And the other thing is, as far as the medical stuff, a lot of local businesses want to know that money is local. So the hypocrisy of the fact that leukemia and lymphoma has a New York chapter, it gives them an up over us, even though their money doesn't stay any more local than our money does. So perhaps in that medical package that you're doing, how it affects our local community will help not only for the doctor's offices, but for some of those businesses.
Yeah, well, I've seen Stuart has joined us to be part of his discussion, so we're gonna circle back to that messaging.
Great. So Jason, do you want to introduce Stuart?
Sure, Stuart, how are you?
I jumped in at the best possible time. Holy, this is.
Stuart, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Stuart McHugh. I joined Lustgarten on February 1st, and I came from Susan G. Komen, where I spent 13 years. We're working on the programmatic and development side of our business. I authored and launched a statewide African American initiative in California, which grew to a nationwide program, and worked with Linda Tantawi, our CEO, to launch a patient navigation initiative in New York, which is now one of the key mission priorities for Komen. So I am so happy to be on this call. And if I may, I'll just take it away. Is that okay with you, Jason and Linda?
Yeah, it's a nice segue. Go right ahead.
Well, it is a nice segue. And I heard Jessica, and I heard Steph Waco, and I heard Sherry. And so this is perfect timing. So let me go through my sponsorship spiel with everyone, and I think I'm going to answer some of your questions. So first of all, I want to thank you all very much for your passion and your community action, as all of us look forward to the fall, winter, and spring walk campaigns. What I want to talk to you about today is how all of us, and we do this in development, and I know a lot of you are so schooled at this already, how we're fine-tuning our elevator speech so that we can succinctly communicate the impact Lustgarten research is having in our local communities. So there's that word local, Sherry. So number one, after all, and you heard this from Andrew Reakman earlier in the day, every major advance in pancreatic cancer research has been touched by a Lustgarten grant. That's one elevator speech. And as you all know, those investments are made possible in part by you and the people that register and fundraise for the walks. So Andy talked about, sorry everybody, I'm at my parents' apartment in Toronto, and I can't do anything about the call. My apologies. We heard from Andy Reakman today, who was talking about the three priorities: early detection, new therapies, and personalized medicine. All of those priorities that he spoke about, that is research led by Lustgarten, which plays a huge role, here's the second elevator speech, which plays a huge role in determining the kind of care one receives at a local cancer center. So that's a nice segue, I think, to new sponsor development and recruitment. And I think Jason took you through the different charts. Jason mentioned that we are working on, and this is very new, we're working on how we can better engage cancer centers in your local communities. After all of the research that's been funded by Lustgarten for the past 20 years that you help fund, it does find its way into the local cancer centers. And so what we want to be able to do is work with you to do a better job at making that connection. If you were diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, where are you going to go? Hopefully the local cancer center. And so much of our work has informed the quality of care that one will receive. So focusing on those cancer centers in your community. So Sherry and Neil in Albany, we know about St. Peter's, Stephanie in Atlanta with Northside, Neil in Boca Raton with Memorial Healthcare. These are great legacy partners of ours, which I think that we want to learn more about, work with you to see if we can't grow the teams that these hospitals might have in addition to their sponsorship. But then also we look at markets like Denver and Houston and Los Angeles, Cedar Rapids and Ellicott City. We want to do a better job at connecting the local audiences with the hospitals where they're going to receive the care. And so what we're going to do in the coming weeks is we'd like to be in touch with you for your feedback. And this was mentioned, I think, by Sherry and Steph. Might have been all three of you, Jessica, Stephanie, and Sherry, but importantly to learn where there is a personal connection. And that's very important as well. I know, we all know that this cause is deeply personal to you, and it will be to the sponsors that we approach as well. We're all part of this unique, mighty, but small community, and how we engage our current and prospective partners should reflect this. So it's your stories and your connections to our cause that can help us get in the door. I think the first call I might make is with you, Stephanie, to learn more about the no's and maybe what we can do to get back in front of some of the people that you proactively pitched in the past. The stories, and you know this, the stories when we focus on the hospitals first, that coordinated approach is very simple. My aunt was treated for pancreatic cancer at your hospital, and I lead a Lustgarten walk in your community, and I'd like to ask for your support. I know this is happening, but I think what we want to be able to do is arm ourselves and all of you and others to have those very tight, succinct elevator speeches. And then importantly, the backup to be able for you to either on your own or with Jason and others to close the deal. So Jason mentioned this streamlined approach with welcoming back all of our no, he did. I don't know if he did or not. Sorry, Jason, I don't mean to.
No, we didn't get, yeah, we didn't dive
haven't
into it
there
just yet, but.
So that streamlined approach to welcoming back all of our walk sponsors, whether they're health systems or insurance companies or the local subway store, we want to be able to do a better job so that we can immediately renew those gifts, which might have taken a pause in the last year. And there are some active partners that we'd like to work with you to re-engage. And talking about sponsor activation and how we will evolve, do a better job of how we recognize our sponsors, we are, as Jason mentioned, discussing the development of a series of webinars that will initially illustrate that connection between the research led by Lustgarten and the care one receives at your local cancer centers. We're going to use these webinars to upsell some of the current hospital partners. So I think of Memorial Care in Boca Raton, which is at 10,000. We'd like to jump them up to 15 or to 20. Stephanie, Northside, we'd like to, it might have been, Stephanie, you're 15 with Northside. What might with this webinar to connect Lustgarten and the Cancer Center, maybe we can use this as an opportunity to jump up from 15 to 20, who knows? But we want to develop, and we think this is the way, ways to proactively attract new sponsors, but also importantly, grow our local footprint. And we obviously hope a growing community of supporters for you and your walks. So more to come on that front. And then I'm happy to, which is so great about this webinar, happy to take questions and hear your thoughts. But Jason and Randy Marcus, and I was thinking of how to embrace wonderful Lisa Crowley, who you all know. So I'm calling her the OG of the walks, the incomparable Lisa Crowley. We're obviously all here to help. And I'm very, very pleased to meet you virtually today, and can't wait to get to work with Jason and his team to really grow our walks in the future. So thank you very, very much. Any questions for?
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. I was going to say, anyone have any questions for Stuart regarding soliciting sponsors?
Not a question.
Okay, go ahead, Neil.
Not a question, but a comment. Great comment. So thank you very much. Also, as an aside, Lisa Crowley is phenomenal, unbelievable.
We think so too. Thanks, Neil.
And I'm glad she's got a place in Jupiter, because we're working real close together. She's gonna be chasing me out of her house soon. I think, and it's just me, I get to the heart. I wanna reach people's hearts. And I've gotten to a lot of people who unfortunately have lost someone, a friend, a family member, etc. And it gets to them when I speak to them. I have a big community here in Florida, 1,350 families. And I'm talking to my tennis playing friends and my pickleball friends and theater group and everything. And you'd be surprised, you wouldn't be surprised, because you all know who they know who has passed away from pancreatic cancer. And so many of them have donated in a second. Now, some of the ideas that you've brought up are fantastic. I am now going to get them involved more than just donating. I'm going to ask them to volunteer, be part of a committee.
Great.
And they have a vested interest. I went to get, just a quick story, I went to get hearing aids, and I was in there taking care of me. And I said, I have a very big walk that I direct and so on and so forth. And maybe you'd like to come down and take a booth and hand out some things and check people's hearing. Oh, really? We're there in a set, whatever you need. My grandmother passed away from pancreatic cancer. She says, I'm in. You have me for the rest of the time that you do it. And I found that to be very, very, very successful. Very, very
Neil, how much did you sell that sponsorship for, or was it just a community service? Did you
It's a community service now. It's a community service now. I'm now working on sponsorship more. They're going to come down, set up a table, check hearing, give out, pens and hearing aid implements and so on and so forth.
Terrific.
Yeah.
The community, they're right in both.
Charge them,
They're
Neil,
right.
charge them
They're in Boynton Beach.
$5,000. Neil, charge them $5,000 for that.
How many?
5,000. Sounds like
5,000?
Yep.
Actually, Neil, you know what you could do is charge $5,000 to have somebody be your doubles partner on the tennis court. How would that be?
Well, Stuart, I'm now going to solicit to my community for a tennis pickleball day for pancreatic cancer. There's 500 people. Yeah.
That's great.
They have the PAP is the big organization I'm going to speak to the manager and say, look, PAP is great. I would like to set up a community event for a Lustgarten Foundation.
Great.
See what they say. See what they say.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil.
You're welcome.
I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Sure, great. Yep.
We have 5 hospitals in Bergen County. I have every one of them as sponsors. The most I have gotten out of them, though, it's like $2,500 or $1,000. I mean, and like Hackensack University Medical Center is a big hospital, Valley Hospital. What can I do to get them to increase the amount of your donation?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
That's a great question, and thank you for. So the first thing is I will work with Jason to very quickly get on a call with you, if that makes sense. Learn how you've been successful in the past, and then I think what we might do is find a way to meet with the community benefits team at each of those hospitals. We will also, I think we'll just have a better understanding of what you've done to be successful at this point, and then work with you to potentially target 1 or 2 for growth. But also this concept of the webinar that Jason and I have just begun initially discuss. I think there might be some good ideas there as well. So really looking forward to connecting with you and to building on your success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean, something that I did is I had a totally outrageous ask of Northside when I went in. And I think I asked them for like $75,000 or something like that, knowing that anything would be great, but making it a large ask so that they felt like when they gave more than they wanted, that there was some kind of,
compromise.
Yeah. And the other thing I did, which I lived up to my promise, is I do go spend a day at Northside, and I stand outside of they have like a office section in the main like hospital entrance, and I set up a Lustgarten table and I talk about pancreatic cancer and Lustgarten with the Northside staff. So I promised them I would do that. Anytime they asked me to do anything, I do it. That's part of our agreement, but I did an overly excessive ask knowing I would never get it.
That's terrific.
Interesting. Okay.
Stuart and Linda, I'm in the Los Angeles Westlake Village walk with Jessica and Kristen, and I would love to set up, I do a lot of development fundraising in my professional life, but I would love to set up a call or meeting with you guys to strategize about how we can attack LA.
That's terrific.
Luckily for you, Lori, Stuart used to live in the area, so he's familiar with the hospital.
Kristen and Jess really have spearheaded the big sponsorships and medical stuff here, but I think it would be a great thing for us to set up a separate call.
That'd be great, Lori.
Okay. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. So we are winding down to the 10-minute mark left in our session today. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your time with us. I know I enjoyed meeting all of you, hearing from all of you. Thank you for your resilience, for your sense of purpose. You are our North Stars, and you keep us inspired every day to do the work that we do and to provide you with the support that you need. And I know that Steph E has some materials about marketing that she'll be sending off to you, and all the other follow-up information. We'll make sure that you get all of that. I love seeing all of your faces. Can't wait to see you in person at some of these walks. We had a great day, and we'll talk with all of you really soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
You're awesome. All of you are awesome.
Yes,
you're awesome, Neil. Thank you.
Yeah.